Hello and welcome to First Flight, a Star Trek Enterprise rewatch podcast where we are watching and discussing each episode of Enterprise in succession.
First Flight is a proud member of the Tricorder Transmissions Network.
This is Commander Tucker of Enterprise. We've got some information you're going to want to hear.
Welcome, Enterprise fans, our Carrot crew. I'm your co-host, Abby.
And I'm your co-host, Chris.
Tonight, we're doing something a bit different, a bonus for all of you. Since Star Trek Discovery just finished its 5th and final season, and since we are both huge fans of that series, we're taking a moment to pause our coverage of Enterprise to put out our thoughts and love for this version of Trek.
We have both watched Discovery from its premiere and have enjoyed its varied flavors of seasons, variety of characters, and its variety of connections to other treks.
In true First Flight form, we will express our honest feelings and celebrate what we love about Discovery. If Discovery is not your flavor of Trek, no worries. We'll be back next time with our usual Enterprise episode recap. And now, before we begin our Discovery discussion, we need to issue a black alert.
Black alert. Jump.
There are potential spoilers ahead. We will end up talking about any part of the series at any time. We're really going through it all, so you have been warned.
All right, it's time to deploy our subspace amplifiers and get into Discovery.
All right, tonight we're going to start with the character spotlight, and we're going to be talking about each of the main characters and several secondary characters and reoccurring characters, Trek Rank style, by distilling our thoughts down to a 5-word summary and a hashtag with a feature episode and a brief response after. And holy bananas, there are a lot of characters on Discovery, so we are really going to try to stay brief because... So we're going to start with our primary characters now, and I'm going to start us off with Michael Burnham. But again, I'm going to say these are the characters that had multiple seasons and were in all or almost all of the entire season. So if you haven't heard your favorite one by the time we get done with this, don't worry. There's a giant list of secondary and supporting characters coming too.
That we had to keep adding to because we're like, how did we forget this guy and that one and this one?
And I know there are some that we didn't put on there. And if you would like to do your Trek Rank style distillation of someone we didn't cover, feel free. But we tried to hit all of the main players. And for these big ones, we're each going to share our 5 words hashtag and episode. And then when we get to the secondary ones, there'll just be one of us doing for each character. Because otherwise, we'll be on here for 72 days. All right, so I'm going to start us off. Of course, we had to start off with Michael Burnham. And this has been a journey. And you know what? I've seen people saying all sorts of praises for her. She's better than Picard. She's better than Cisco. And you know what? I have the hardest time ranking captains because it's kind of my heart is with each of them in a special way. But Burnham has a special place in my heart. I love the fact that we've seen so much of her journey. So here we go with my distillation of the star of Discovery. My 5 words are growing into leadership with relationships, hashtag fate of the universe. And the episode that I picked to feature was season 5, episode 8, Labyrinths. And I picked that episode because of that final scene, or final 2 scenes in the Mindscape, where she's really deconstructing what's important to her, why it's important to her. She's admitting fear and vulnerability and why she has a hard time with things. And that speech resonated so hard with me. I texted you that morning, like way too early that morning, going, oh my God, that speech could have been from my own head. Like that was peak Michael right there. And that was a Shakespeare rivaling soliloquy there from Burnham. And she held her tears for like seconds and then wipes the one away, like angry that it dared to spill over. Like she has never looked more strong, more beautiful, more Starfleet than that moment, and more Michael. Like that was so her. And that's why I had to pick that one. All right, your turn for Burnham.
All right. My 5 words for Michael Burnham: redemption to realization of potential. Hashtag Mary Sue. I mean, not Mary Sue. No, that's just for all the dumb people out there saying that. No, my hashtag is hashtag Captain Wife Mother.
Oh,
We get such a rich lifetime exploration of this character. A captain in Trek hasn't had such a wide range to cover. And so there's something really special about Michael Burnham. So my episode I had to pick is the end, life itself, because we get to
mm,
see her end up presumably married, but living with Book in her
yeah,
old age, happy, comfortable, a
yeah,
mother, a
yeah,
proud mother of a very successful, thriving son who's going to be a captain. Like, and she's able to just dole out this wisdom. And Sonequa sells that she's an older woman with years of experience giving this wisdom
mm-hmm,
out. And like,
mm-hmm,
I felt the same way when Guinan spoke, right?
yeah,
There's
yeah,
just this the gravitas of wisdom, not overdone. It's very subtle and light because she's not having to dredge it up. It's just there.
yeah,
So
yeah,
beautiful character. I'm love that we both went with season 5 because that's the self-realization, the self-actualization of
yeah.
Michael Burnham.
Well, and there are so many moments that you could have picked, and so many times that she has just been in your heart. And I think, like you said, that the scope of her, starting all the way, from mutineer all the way up to admiral at the end when she's older. And bravo to those people who did the old age makeup that made her look like her in universe mother. Like she
Yeah,
looked so much like Gabrielle when she was older. I'm like, whoo, bravo. That was
yeah,
chef's kiss gorgeous.
it
But
was.
wasn't it? It was astonishing how quick it went. I went, wow. But Michael, just she's such a full realized person, and she isn't perfect. And so much of her growth each season is realizing that, and realizing how she has to connect outward to do what she needs to do inward. And that is
Mm,
powerful messaging. And that I think is a lesson that so many people need to hear and need to see. And I think that people's love and respect and understanding of of that message is only going to grow as Discovery ages. I mean, I know before every season I rewatch the whole thing up to it. I am going to give it a month to sit and let me think and process 5. I'm going to watch 5 one time together, the whole thing, and then I'm going to let it sit, and then I'm going to watch the entire thing, because every time I rewatch, I love more and more about what they do with Michael and how
yep.
she feels so real, and her relationships with different people are just
Hmm.
cornerstones. And it is such a beautiful journey, and we see it in a more raw and intimate way than we are used to seeing our captains, and that is really beautiful.
It is. And yeah, there's so many. We could do a whole episode of just Michael's connections to different characters, honestly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
yep.
but we'll probably hit on that as we go through other characters. So why don't we move into Saru?
Oh, Saru.
Everyone that's listened to any of our buttons knows how much we love Saru. So I'm going to go into my 5 words and a hashtag for Saru. Stable, gentle resolve leads forward. Hashtag we are Starfleet.
Oh.
And then my episode I chose was I tried not to pick it. I tried not to, but I couldn't help it. An O ball for Charon. What
Oh,
a
yeah,
great episode. I still have not gotten over that episode. So good.
yeah,
But in that episode, we find that he wants to show the way forward for other Kelpians. Like he's trying to forge this path for other Kelpians, and he's kept logs to document his journey. And then even when he becomes captain in season 3, and there's lots of crap going on, he is stable and resolved to Starfleet principles, but there's a calmness about it. My mind went back to season 2 when he's telling Tilly that before we can care for others, we have to care for ourselves. That's stability.
Mhm.
That's resolve.
Mhm.
No matter what's going on, he is stable and resolved, even when he has intensity behind him, like in Life Itself or in Sound of Thunder. There is a
Mhm.
stability still in it and a resolve. So I think he's in a character to aspire to more than almost anyone in Discovery to me. I can't exactly say why, but to me, he's the most aspirational character on Discovery.
Well, he is so true and, like you were saying, steady in his ethics and morals. Like he doesn't waver from that. And he's not afraid to stand up for things.
Hmm.
And he's also not afraid to tell people they're they have not when he's disappointed by them, I guess is the best way to say it,
Hmm.
when they don't live up to their ethics and morals the way that he feels they should have. And that is one of those things, like when he was captain, you could see he didn't lead by fear, he didn't
Hmm.
lead, with he led with heart, but he led with that, like, you wanted to work for him, you wanted to make him proud, you didn't want to disappoint him. And that is,
You felt safe with him.
yes, yes.
Well,
And
and it makes me think of that's my hashtag. We are Starfleet. He
mhm,
needed the crew needed the stable resolve of Starfleet because
yeah,
the rug was pulled out from under them with Lorca. So
yep.
that moment was the moment that I was like, oh, this is Star Trek, right?
Hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, let me throw my words and hashtag in episode in, and we can talk a little bit more about Saru here. So
Okay.
we had similar ideas, but slightly different takes. So I had anxious determination leads with heart,
Mm,
hashtag gentle steel. And then I did season 2, episode 6, The Sound of Thunder,
thank
which
you.
is,
Had to be.
oh,
Yeah.
one of my very favorite episodes of the entire series. I
Me
mean, first of
too.
all, the visuals are
Mm,
incredible. You get to see Action Saru and his spikes come out for the first time.
yeah.
You
Action
get to,
Saru.
oh yeah, oh yeah, and I love that he totally, by the end of the series, is accepting that, and he's like, yeah,
Yes.
maybe he came out today. Like, oh,
Yeah.
it was perfect. But you also get to see how much he loves his sister and his
Hmm.
relationship with Sarana, and then seeing Michael, who is like a sister to him in chosen family, meet his actual family,
Hmm.
like the power in that, and seeing how much he gave up and how much he still cares, and the
Mm.
tradition. And I'm sorry, the Baul are really kind of good bad guys.
Yeah, they're
I
awesome.
love that they came together and had peace on the planet later on, but they are creepy, their voices are weird, their weapons are powerful. Like, this is a great episode, and it
Hmm.
shows Saru in so many lights, and it has so many connections to what came before and what comes after. And this is where, like, I go, I identify with the anxiety of Saru. Like, if I
Mm.
had ganglia, I'd be in trouble, right? But I I love watching him grow into himself. And yes, aspirational for sure, because again, not perfect, makes mistakes, tries really hard, but sometimes just doesn't quite make it. Like, but he's so gentle and firm and consistent, and I miss Saru when he's not with me often enough. Like, one of the reasons I rewatch Discovery is because I need some Saru. So I
Yes,
I love Saru.
me too. Me too.
All right, let's move it on to Tilly. Sylvia Tilly, who I absolutely adore. And like I was just telling you before, my younger daughters her stuffies, her lovies that she takes everywhere with her are named Tilly, which I did not have anything to do with, but
Sure,
absolutely
sure.
love.
Borgtooth, Tilly.
Yeah, a lot of it I will stand up for, but this one came from another long, convoluted story, which
Okay.
is a lot like Tilly on Discovery. She can
Exactly.
have some long, convoluted stories. So
Hmm.
here are my words and hashtag an episode for Tilly. Bountiful enthusiasm tempers into teaching. Hashtag smart with heart. And I picked season 2, episode 5, The Saints of Imperfection. And that's the one where she's trapped in the mycelial network and she's there with
Hmm.
May, and like she's smarting her way out of everything. She's thinking through it. One of the things I've always loved about Tilly from the very beginning is that she is so good at doing her thought process out loud.
Hmm.
And that's something as a teacher you love to hear because you can follow
Think
it,
aloud.
right? And yes, think aloud. And adults don't do that. Most kids, by the time they're in third grade, don't do that. But Tilly always does this because Tilly says a lot of words. And you've watched her change throughout and get herself together and realize her place, and that really she wants to be a mentor, she wants to be a teacher. This is where she's really clicking. But then even in the last episode of the entire series, she's thinking about out loud about how you jump this to here to there, and how
Yeah.
can we do this. She did it, she's still doing that, and it's helping. And to see a smart woman do things like that where she's like, no, 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 well, maybe, like, it's so cool to see that. And I love that she's always excited about the science, she's always excited about the mission, she's always there for her friends. She's 100% heart. Like, May might have been the creepiest thing. I mean, she had to get her skull drilled into because of May, and she's
Yeah.
still in there trying to help and save her. And I love Tilly. Another somebody who I find aspirational, because you're watching that journey and that coming into yourself in a different way than what we'd seen before on Star Trek, and I love it.
Yeah, she starts as a kid and
Hmm.
ends as a full adult that's mentoring other kids. Like,
Yeah,
that's really cool. It's a really good
yeah.
arc.
And I love how she was talking about mentoring in the last episode and talking about
Hmm.
how now she's doing it with Adira. Like, this is the circle that you want to keep seeing grow. And that's just, it's really cool to see how they took that character that direction.
Absolutely. All right. So my 5 words.
Yes.
Found her voice for others. Hashtag andragogy, which is
Mm.
the instruction of adults. And then my episode is season 5, Whistle Speak. Because you really
Mm.
see the fruition of that whole growth of her becoming the teacher and reflecting on being a teacher. And
Yeah.
just like you and I, Abby, at this part of every year, it usually starts around February, March for me, looking to next year, what could I do better? Next year, I'm
Yep.
going to figure this out. And we're always, as teachers, trying to find better ways to communicate and prompt change in those that we're teaching. And Whistle Speak for me is really where we're seeing her reflect on her practices and her approaches and what her part is in developing these people that might not stay in the academy. They might go on and do something different. And what's her role in that? So I really appreciated Tilly, the peek into Tilly's development in Whistle Speak. Um, yeah, so that's my selection.
That's beautiful. And that was a really good episode for her in so many ways. And I love the fact that she's she's using, laws of physics to keep herself going when she's
Well,
getting tired. Like,
well, like you
that, could
said,
that be any more Tilly?
but like you said, she's always thinking her things out loud to propel her
Yep.
forward. Literally,
Yep.
she's doing it then. So
Yep, it's perfect.
it
It's
is.
absolutely perfect. And I know a lot of people said, "Oh, I felt she was underutilized in this season." Well, I always feel like underutilized because I always want more, which is a good sign of a good character. And I am hoping that all of the can't talk about it, I can't say anything, don't trick me, means that we are seeing her on Academy,
Yeah.
because I want more Tilly.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially since she's the longest tenured faculty member at the
Exactly.
academy at that point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's time to go into our beloved lover of mushrooms, Paul Stamets. So, my 5 words for Mr. Stamets. Technobabble with a beating heart. Hashtag connection. And my hashtag is because his whole thing is about how the entire galaxy or universe is all connected by mycelia.
Uh-huh.
And once he starts, jumping, his heart is freed from his cynicism and snark that we get in the first couple episodes, which I did enjoy. I enjoyed that Stamets. But I also enjoy Stamets with a heart. And my episode pick is Into the Forest I Go.
Oh.
That scene with Lorca is
Mhm.
stunning. I, I I think I said it on the recent Trek ranks that I was on, that because someone else picked that episode. It was in that moment I was like, oh my gosh, Lorca might be one of my favorite captains of all time. Because he's talking about going boldly where no one has gone before and using the spore
Yeah.
drive to discover different planes of existence. And he's really catering to Stamets' desire to discover, right?
Yep.
Um, and the beauty and the mystery of how the universe is all connected together. And so for that scene alone, you really get inside Paul's head via the manipulative machinations of a mirror universe captain. But
Ooh.
still, we get it.
Yeah. Yeah, that scene is incredible. And that's where you start to realize, I mean, and anyone who's seen Anthony Rapp in anything knows that the man is a powerhouse.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that scene right there, when you see what's being done, and especially going back watching after you know all of what's coming,
Hmm.
ooh, it's a goosebump scene.
It is.
That's And season one Stamets is brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, talk about character development. He starts off this, big old grumpy guy, and he can still be real grumpy. And then he gets all weirded out, and then he's, got white eyes, and then
Hmm.
I mean, and then he ends up back doing these amazing things. And yeah, poor guy. Like, it was a rough year. I mean, rough for Hugh as well. That family had some trauma that year.
Well, and without him, Michael might not have been successful in life itself because
Yeah.
Culber wouldn't be back.
Yeah,
Culber was the
that's
one
very
that could
true.
access the, frequency you have to turn the tractor beam on to get the portal to stay from getting sucked into the black hole. So
Mhm.
yeah, Stamets, super important character.
Yeah. All right. So I have another piece of Stamets that I really liked that kind of went into my 5 words and hashtags. So I will throw it on you here. Brilliant scientist finds his family.
Hmm.
Hashtag grumpy spore man mellows. And then I did season 4, episode 7, But to Connect. And I felt like I
Yes.
touched on a few things here that were important to me. Like, first of all, Stamets is brilliant. Brilliant. You
Hmm.
want to talk about great engineers? And I mean, is he chief engineer? No, but he is a brilliant scientist
Hmm.
on Trek. And
Hmm.
I will hold him against anyone else. The things that he's had to do. I mean, even just in the last 3 episodes of the series,
Yeah.
he's, here you go, you have 2 minutes to figure out how to do this and this without killing us. Okay. Like, and he does it every time. So he's absolutely brilliant. The fact that he found his family, and he had Hugh when we started, but they they drifted apart. They came back together. They found Adira. Gray came with Adira. Like, they had this beautiful little cluster, and it changed him. And we
Hmm.
watched it happen, and that was amazing to see on screen. Whether the fact that they're all adults, or maybe Adira is just under adulthood, hard to tell. Um, but finding these connections and this family, and it being just as powerful a love as if they were genetically linked, was so important to the back half of Discovery that I couldn't take that out. And then I loved in But to Connect when he is arguing with Kovic about Zora,
Yeah.
because somebody needed to do that, because all of us, there's no way that like even 900 plus years from now, people haven't been reading and thinking the same ideas about AI and sentience and,
Mhm.
all that we're thinking now. Like somebody needed to come in and ask the big hard questions. Somebody needed to come in and throw that out there, and he was perfect because he wasn't doing it with malice, and like that was what came across in that whole scene. And he's arguing against his own kids,
Mm.
and he's
Mhm.
not wanting Zora to be hurt or gotten rid of or any of it. He just can't take out the scientist in him, and that is beautiful. And then the conversation he has with Kovich at the end about how he said, if I had not been okay with it, what would you have done? And Kovich said, I would have transferred you.
Mhm.
And he nods and he's like, yeah, as you should have. Like just the amount of self-realization that was there.
Mhm.
But he wouldn't have been able to be okay had that not happened. And that was just such a great moment. And one of the points where I went, God, Culber is such a great character.
Yes, he is. And I think this episode is going to come up a few more times for me.
It
It's such a good one.
is a good
And it's
one.
just people talking
Yeah.
and
In
debating
great
tough
costumes.
but debating tough issues and
Yeah.
not pulling punches. But there's also an
Hmm.
emotional core to it too. So like that's what Discovery in its later seasons does really good. It's a good melding of a more emotional Star Trek with the TNG conference room kind of debate.
So we did one half of that Space Family's adults. So let's pop into the second half. I'm going to start us off with Dr. Culber, who, I I have been watching Wilson Cruz and loving Wilson Cruz since he was on My So-Called Life. Like I was exactly the age of those characters when they were on screen, and I loved him, still love him. This man could not be more Star Trek in his life outside of Star Trek. Like
Mm.
he just is always there for equality and rights and compassion and inclusivity, and it just glows through him. So what a gift he has been to Star Trek and continues to be. So
And he's
all
so
right.
well spoken
Yes.
outside of
Yes.
Trek too. Because some, we get used to hearing an eloquence of the character, and then sometimes we hear the actor and it's not so much. Even though
Mm-hmm.
they're saying the right things, it just doesn't come out as smoothly. His comes out
Yes.
beautifully.
Yes. Yes. And he just is one of those people that always kind of is oozing joy.
Mm.
Like Michelle Hurd the same way. Like they just
Mm.
joy just kind of
They shine.
flows off of them. Yes. And you just feel better being around them. I have one of my best friends is one of those people. And I'm like, you know what? You just walk in the room and it's just better
Mm.
because you're there and you're just happier. And it just brings, even when he's doing the darkest, heaviest, hardest things, it brings a lightness to the character and the man that I
Mm.
just think is really beautiful to see. And I think when he's in his darkest moments and that is at its lowest, it makes it that much more powerful because he's pulling in instead of rolling out, which is what he's normally doing. And that makes such a powerful performance. So I should just get into what I'm going to say here because it kind of lines up. And I have my 5 words: doctor to minds and bodies, hashtag self exploration. And I highlighted season 5, episode 6, Whistle Speak,
Love
because
that.
in there, well, it's interesting because I really found myself, one of the things I enjoyed the most about the last season was Culber's relationship with Book.
Yes.
And that's the one where he's opening up to him for the first time about how he's had these experiences. He's had, Janelle was him for a while. He died and came back, like all of these things. And he's like, yeah, and it doesn't really matter because, it's just for me. And then Book looks at him and tells him, it's this odd quirk, really, this human tendency to consider something less meaningful if it's just for yourself. And watching Wilson Cruz take that in
Hmm.
and chew on it and react to it, and then watching the next few episodes and then the finale where he goes with Book and this relationship might save the universe kind of thing. Like it's beautiful. And he did this all the way through all the seasons. Like he's always been taking care of the people, not just their bodies. And again, with Book this season, when he's like, how have you been? And Book says where he's been. He's like, no, that's what you've been doing. How are you? Like
Mm-hmm.
he's looking for the people. He helps Detmer when she's having that really strong PTSD. Tilly knows to go to him. Like
Saru.
Saru, yes, goes to him. Like he is just there to help you and to guide you. And like they joke, you know everything. And even he and Reno have a nice back and
Mm-hmm.
forth. Like it's just so amazing to see him encouraging others to do that and doing it himself. And
Mm-hmm.
I know season 6 there were plans to have him go even further than that. I mourn that we don't see that,
Mm.
because I found it one of the most powerful journeys in the series, because that man has also been through some stuff. Like
Yeah,
his
death to
conversation with
life.
Kovich. Yeah, the conversation with Kovich where he's like, yeah, you died. And like everything that comes after it
Yeah.
was so needed and so powerful. So I love Culber. I could keep going, but we're trying to keep this brief.
I love him too, and it's one that like you don't. I didn't like really attach to him in season one. Um, in fact, he wasn't even a main cast, right?
No, because he was on another show at the same time and was only available for about half of them.
Yeah. So he goes from not main cast to essential vital cast in this series, which I'm glad he is in that final remembrance scene on the bridge of Discovery in Life Itself. I love that they got him there. But yeah, I'll just go into my hashtag and 5 words. Wise man who hasn't arrived. Hashtag greater than self. So he's wise, but he's never going to accept that he's arrived to his full potential or to being
Yeah.
good, right? I feel that, right? He's always growing and always welcoming the growth in himself and in others. And then greater than self, like he's now open in season 5 to this idea that he's part of something greater than himself. And he can't quite
Mm-hmm.
explain it. And life itself, he says there's beauty in the inexplainable or the mystery, whatever it
Yeah.
is. But I chose Whistle Speak as well.
Uh, that's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pivotal episode and an unusual episode in Star Trek, very unique, where a character just has this religious epiphany in this way. There's no prophets, looking for a hidden
Mm-hmm.
city, right? It's just a realization after reflecting on all these experiences, that's kind of left him changed. So Whistle Speak is a great one.
Well, and I really like too that he talks to Stamets about this. And he's
Hmm.
like, I don't know what's going on. Like something I feel different
Hmm.
and weird. And they go through all of the science of it
Hmm.
behind it. And Stamets does not feel the same, but he understands feeling part of something greater. Like we said, he understands mycelium
Hmm.
throughout the universe. So it they might not be saying the same words, but they understand that feeling of connection and being
Hmm.
a piece of something greater. And I've seen people going, well, how, it must be hard to talk to a partner who doesn't get it, but they do. And they come to that understanding
I
with
mean,
each other.
Paul exists outside time in some
Exactly.
ways, right? So
Yep.
yeah, there's a feeling of feeling just a small cog in the
Yeah.
wheel.
Yeah. Yeah. They make an interesting couple. And I really appreciate that they show that you don't have to be the same, even in some of your core thoughts, to love, respect, and choose to be with somebody. And I feel like that's a message that has been lost in society lately. And you focus on smaller things and they get blown up. And this message of it is okay to love people who think differently than you, and they deserve love as well. Just because people don't think the exact same thing as you doesn't make them automatically terrible. So
Or the enemy. Yeah.
right,
Hmm.
or that you have to change them. Like it can just be acceptance and respect.
Yeah. Well, I love the relationship between Culber and Book, just like you said, I could, I think you've said this in a past button, but I could listen to them talk about philosophy and life
Yes.
for a long time. So why don't we just go right into Book?
Perfect.
All right. It was a hard 5 words to
This was
write.
the hardest one for me too. I struggled with him more than any other main
Uh-huh.
character.
Because he has this twinkle in his eye and he
Mm-hmm.
has this smile, but it's not really a smile. It hides a lot behind it. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
hard to peg down sometimes. So, okay, I'm just gonna get into it. Empathetic, empathetic.
You're putting "fad" in the middle of words there.
Yeah. Empathic swashbuckler with twinkling eyes. Hashtag entranced. Or a
Mm,
little trance worm pun, but also when he's on screen, you're entranced. You can't look
mm-hmm.
away. His performance
Mm-hmm.
is so unique, so entrancing and captivating that you can't look away. And my episode is Red Directive.
Mm,
He,
good choice.
yeah, I mean, it was really hard to pick an episode for him because he's kind of in a ton of them and he has all these little moments. There's not like a book episode besides Scavengers, and that's not my favorite of the episodes. But Red Directive, you're drawn to him in many ways because there's swashbuckling, there's a lot of fun action, there's lots of humor, but there's also this unease between him and Michael. And so I never want to stop watching. Even with the unease, though, his eye has a little twinkle. So Red Directive, maybe recency bias, but I really enjoy that one for book.
No, that's a great thing to call out there. And you're right. He plays so uniquely, and I can't imagine anyone else
Mm-mm.
playing Book. Like I can't imagine even people. I mean, cosplaying him, yes, because
Mhm.
he has some incredible clothing. That man wears some of the best Star Trek knitwear out there, especially in
Mhm.
season 3. Like, whoo, I
Mhm.
it's gorgeous. But he just has that swagger and that charisma, that twinkle you were saying. You see that whenever you see any interview with David Agella. Like
Mhm.
that's just him. And
Mhm.
it's beautiful to see. And Book is so complicated and he's not Starfleet, which is interesting because it doesn't mean that he's any less connected, any less ethical, any less moral. He's just different and he's had a
Mhm.
different life and it brings a different perspective and that is interesting. So I'm going to go into mine because I have a kind of some connections there and then we'll pull it together. So
Do
I
it. Do
had
it.
my 5 words: non-Starfleet adventures, semicolon, deep ethical connections,
Mm.
and my hashtag is big feelings.
Mm.
And yeah, because he like I said, his ship is different. His
Yeah.
modus operandi is different. His ability to reach out to people is different. And how many times did it end up saving them, helping them? Like it's different. He just doesn't automatically think the Starfleet way. And it's really nice to see that. And it's nice to see him butt heads with Michael at times over stuff like this. Even, giving Maul over to the Breen this last season, he looked right at her. He's like, this is wrong.
Yeah.
He did it in the examples, this is wrong,
Yeah.
leaving him here. He will say it over and over again. And then he'll say, we've already discussed this. We're just, it's fine. I understand. And he does, but he's also not afraid to say that. Like, and it's very refreshing because there's a whole bunch of people out there agreeing with him because a lot of these are such gray decisions,
Mm.
you know? So it was nice to see that. And he does have big feelings. Everything he feels is big, it's huge. And he can connect with others
Mhm.
through his abilities. He's got those big feelings that he can spread to others. And I really like that about Book. And I picked for my episode, of course, maybe it is again recency bias, but season 5, episode 10, Life Itself, because you've got to see so
Mm.
many pieces of Book in there. You got to see Book the scientist, you got to see Book the friend, you got to see, Book determined adventure hero, you got to see Book as an old man, as a husband, as a father, as when he came in at the wedding and he just had to run in with Telexian pirates. I mean, how many different versions of Book that we see right here, and talking about Molly, that just it was so many reasons why we love him, and so we were so happy when we found out that they had this happy ending at the end. And I love Book. I love Book with Michael. I would love to see a book series, an animated series about the adventures of Book and Michael in between,
Hmm.
then and now. But yeah, what a character. I'm
Or
so glad that we got him for 3 seasons.
or even a little look into that lost year.
There's a novel. I can't remember what it's
Oh,
called,
that's
but there's a
right. You're
novel
right. You're
of
right.
the lost year. It's really good.
I have not read that
Uh,
one. Yeah.
it'll come to me. No, it's worth it. I can see the cover, like their two
Hmm.
faces looking
Hmm.
to the left, dark cover. I cannot remember the name of it, but it's really good.
Mm.
It'll come to me randomly at some point, and I'll just yell it out. So while I let that percolate around in my brain, let's jump to another character that we got for 3 seasons, and that's Adira. And I think there's a lot to say about Adira, so I'm going to jump right into it. And my 5 words are: love and symbiont means growth. Hashtag they can do it. And they picked season 3, episode 4, Forget Me Not.
Mm.
I liked Adira. I like that Adira was a non-traditional, just about everything, non-traditional host, non-traditional gender presentation, non-traditional way to get into Starfleet, like non-traditional family, it just all sorts of little things like that, and yet still so relatable, because we have all felt like Adira at times. We've all had, a first love. We've all had something that's gutted us. We've all felt a little bit like we've been going crazy in our own minds, probably aren't seeing, past hosts slash boyfriends appear to us, but we've all had those moments where you're just overwhelmed. We've all had those moments of connection, and just I like Adira. I like that Adira is what Will Wheaton said this. Adira is what he wanted Wesley Crusher to be.
Yeah.
Like competent and still having those moments, still seeing that they're green, they're new, they're nervous and they're excited, but brilliant. And it doesn't feel as jarring when Adira does these big huge things like it did when Wesley did, because it's been worked in so much better with the character and with the stories. And I loved when Adira had the chance to go back and look at all their past hosts,
Hmm.
and see them and find this and all that backstory. Like, it was just really powerful to me. And going back to the pools on Trill is just a little thrill for anyone who's been around and watching since DS9. So I had to call that one out. And I like Adira coming out of the pool and naming their hosts. Like,
Yes.
I found that a very powerful moment. And to be in this like soaking wet white nightgown covered in what looks like a prayer shawl and having an empowering moment, that's a lot. So bravo.
Welcome to the circle.
Yeah, I know. It's just, it gives you goosebumps. It's a good one.
It is very rewatchable and a beautiful
Yes.
episode just visually. Trill is
Mm-hmm.
gorgeous looking.
Oh, and all the robes
Uh-huh.
and like,
Yep.
gee, Abby likes the
Very
costumes again,
colorful.
but
Yep.
they are, and detailed. And I appreciate the time that people took to like embroider things. It probably didn't need embroidery because
Hmm.
who cares? But I care, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, the costumes on Discovery are its own episode.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'm going to throw mine in. Adira. To be seen and tested. Hashtag gaining confidence. And my episode is Lagrange Point,
Mm.
where Adira is like, I'm going on this mission. And in season 5, Adira just wants to be seen and to be tested. Put me on the bridge. Put me in, coach. And
Mm-hmm.
nervous about it, and then gets encouragement from Rayner in his own
Mm-hmm.
way and from Tilly. So I
Mm-hmm.
really like that Lagrange point. Adira is out there in the field in a very dangerous mission, saving the day. Like
Mm-hmm.
Adira is the Obi-Wan Kenobi shutting down the shield, right? So the
Yeah.
mission can happen. And I love that little remark that Adira makes when Reese is like, we must work on your station. Get out of here. And Adira's like, that's an order. And
Mm-hmm.
Adira's like, always picking on the ensign. It's a funny little moment that
Yeah.
character doesn't get a lot of funny moments. So I appreciated they gave that in the midst of going on the very dangerous, critical away mission.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I picked my hashtag being hashtag they can do it.
Hmm.
Because I'm
Hmm.
thinking back to when they were that scene where Adira volunteers and they
Hmm.
look at Tilly and Tilly's like, yeah, they can do it. Well, they can do it in all sorts of different ways and things. Like
Hmm.
what back to when the space station was spinning
Yeah.
back in season 4, and it's like, well, you can take me, Tilly says, but you should really take Adira. Like that's just that's cool. That's empowering. And that is showing again that mentoring relationship and realizing when the person who has the most skills might not be the most ready to do the dangerous stuff. So you pair them with somebody like Reese, right? So you have this awesome. They don't get captured. They do their job.
Yeah.
They're good. Like they were the part of the mission nobody had to worry about.
Yeah.
It's beautiful and yeah, and I just love that bit of growth at the end for Adira, and I
Hmm.
hope that Adira becomes a mentor to somebody else. Like maybe we don't know when Academy is going to be set. If it's 10 years down the line, maybe we have guest mentor Lieutenant Commander Adira Tall coming in and talking about adventures or
Mm.
who knows? Because I hope this is not the end for the character.
I mean, just to get Tilly and Adira doing science together,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
I would love that.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Well, speaking of science, let's talk about a science experiment of a person.
Oh.
Tyler, Ash Tyler slash Voke.
Mhm.
This guy, talk about traumatic experiences in life. So the 5 words may not make sense, but I think that works for the character because he's just trying to make sense of himself at the end of season 1. So here we go. 5 words for Tyler Voke. Two who isn't quite one. Hashtag choice.
Ooh.
He he's two people, but not two people. He's one person, but not quite one person. In the end, he chooses to be the Ash Tyler who loves Michael Burnham.
Yeah.
That's his choice. Of course, Laurel helps, make that choice possible, but that's how he was fighting the whole presence of Vogue the whole time by holding on to Michael until it was, he couldn't really surmount that anymore. But what an interesting character that upon rewatch gets better and better, especially in season 2. And so my
Mm-hmm.
choice for him is season two's episode Point of Light.
Mm.
When that episode first aired, it wasn't my favorite episode. I was like, okay, we got the cleaning one out of the way. Good. But the more I watch that one, the more I appreciate the nuance of his relationship with Laurel. It's very there is love between them, but also he sees her as an abuser,
Mm-hmm.
right? So and now they have a kid to get like there's a whole complexity to that character.
There's a Klingon opera's worth of soap opera drama.
Oh my gosh, yes. There's a Shakespearean play, which is,
Yeah.
Klingons love that stuff anyway. So yeah, I think he is an underused character. I'm so sad that when we see him on the bridge of the Klingon ship in Such Sweet Sorrow, that's the last time we see him for now. I mean, who knows? But I like that character and have only grown to like him more. And so that is my take on Ash Tyler slash Voke.
Nice. All right, mine is similar but complementary. So I'm just going to get into it.
Do
I
it.
have 5 words: layers of secrets
Mm.
dash human slash Klingon,
Mm.
and then hashtag great first boyfriend. And I know that one is going to be
Mm.
controversial. So let me talk to you about my episode and then I'll come back to that one. So my episode was season 2, episode 8, if memory serves. And that's the one where he has the fight with Culber.
Hmm.
And it is again, one of those massively intense, can't turn away. I hate watching people that I care about get hurt or fight or beat each other, but this, like Saru says, this has to happen.
Yeah.
Like they both have to get this out, and to watch him going, I am so sorry, I cannot even begin to tell you, like, it was me, it wasn't me. And then, Culver understands the me not me thing a little bit more, like down in season 5 when he's had Janal and it was him and it wasn't him. Like,
Yeah.
it's so all the way around. But this is a moment where you see Ash Tyler just going, yeah, this is me, and I don't know what to do with it either.
Hmm.
And it was very, very powerful. So that's what I wanted to talk the most about there, is and all those layers, and how fun it was during Discovery season 1 to be like, is it really the same guy? It can't be. No, it isn't. The fake IMDb pages, like, it was just fun to
Yeah.
have that layer. Even though I think all of us who've watched a lot of Star Trek saw it coming after a while, it was still fun. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about how he's a great first boyfriend. Now, we
Hmm.
know maybe Burnham has had boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, partners beforehand, but she says in this season, she's never been in love. And
Hmm.
then she is for the first time. So this is like the first serious one. And most people, not all, but most people, your first real true love does not end in forever. It ends in
Hmm.
heartbreak. And hers does, in a really dramatically awful, terrible Klingon soap opera way. But then you get season 2 where they find each other in a different way, and they sort of come back to each other, and they realize, this isn't going to be forever,
Hmm.
but there is still so much there, and that they both grew and changed because of each other. And that is not always something that you get to have, especially not with first loves. And
Hmm.
it was beautiful to see them both process that. And so I think Michael was ready to meet Book
Yes.
because
Yes.
she had had Tyler. And if she had not, she would not have been anywhere in the space in herself to begin again with Book. So great first boyfriend.
Yeah. He showed her what she can feel
Uh-huh.
as a woman who grew up on Vulcan,
Yep.
which,
Yep.
we see a massive difference. She's very Vulcan-like. Like, even
Mm.
in the first 2 episodes, or the first episode, when she's walking on the desert planet with Giorgio, I remember
Mm-hmm.
watching that going, wow, this acting is really stiff. Like, it's gorgeous looking, but I'm like, this is not good. And it could have not been the best dialogue and delivery, but it's also because this character is literally stiff in the beginning of
Mm-hmm.
Discovery. She's a stiff, repressed human who grew up on Vulcan and has such high expectations for herself because of wanting to please Sarek. So she gets to push through all of that alongside Ash Tyler in Lethe.
Mm-hmm.
I love that final conversation where she reintroduces herself to
Yeah.
Ash because she's reintroducing herself to herself in
Yep.
that moment because she wants to feel all these feelings and they're all in conflict. And he says it's just being human, which is ironic because he's Klingon. But it's such a pivotal moment for the character that you see that's the beginning of her blooming, that one episode.
Yep.
Throughout the rest of the series, it culminates in life itself. What an arc.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I mean, it proceeds to go right into make magic to make the sanest man to go mad. So that's
Yep.
perfect introduction of that.
And that is such a beautiful snapshot of why Tyler is a great first boyfriend in that
Yes.
episode as well. Like, that's what you want with your first, like, major I love you person. Like, he's willing to die, change the universe, change time. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Big swings, but they work in that one for sure.
Absolutely. And Stamets is great there too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that episode. We'll get to that when we get to seasons.
Okay,
All
yes.
right, we have one more final main character, and this is Giorgio. And I
Mhm.
purposefully, when I wrote this out for us, did not put which one I was talking about. But I personally am doing Emperor Giorgio, Mirror Universe Giorgio, a Section
Yes.
31 Giorgio, whatever you want to call her. That's the one that I went with. And it's no secret I love this character. I love Michelle Yeoh. I think she's another absolutely incredible get for Star Trek. I think the fact that she won an Oscar and still wanted to make her Section 31 movie speaks so highly of the franchise, of her, of the work that this does.
And her
She is
character.
another. Yes.
She's committed
Yes.
and loyal.
Yes. And I love Emperor Giorgio. Like, I love, she eats every scene alive. This woman can command the screen. And I found her arc and her growth fantastic. I can't wait for the Section 31 movie, especially because I'm guessing she's going to get some absolutely fantastic jewelry. Anyone who has listened to me knows Giorgio's jewelry. She's got these ear cuffs that are fantastic. She gets rings. Like, yes, can't wait. So, all right, here we go. Before I get in even more gushy, let me just do my words. Intensity and loyalty over ethics, question mark. Hashtag snark covers feelings. And I picked season 3, and I cheated, episodes 9 and 10, and I picked Terra Firma parts 1 and 2 because that is one big story.
Yep.
And besides the fact that some of my favorite music of the series comes from those episodes, could we see a character who has a more perfect arc? And then the fact that she walks through Carl/Guardian and has that moment to try to redo and to use what she learned. She's being weighed. She's being judged. She realizes that she is making choices. And you're seeing this play out. And to see that, you know, she's Terran. She was the absolute pinnacle of power and all that was Terran. And she is changed by her time with the Discovery crew, with her time in that universe, with the times that she was in, different time periods. It was beautiful. And to see her slip back and forth between Emperor and the woman, and like just those 2 episodes, those were her episodes. And besides the fact that everybody else in the Mirror Universe just chews scenery like nobody's business, which is amazing. She is the heart. She is the soul. I would watch an entire Mirror Universe series, even though it's not my favorite, if she was the lead, because that character is incredible. And I like I said, I could keep going. So I'm going to pause and, in the hopes of brevity, pass it over to you for your words.
Yeah. Okay. Irredeemable force proves Roddenberry's vision. Hashtag
nice.
Happy. That line just
what just happened here?
What just happened? Yeah. My episode is Terra Firma part 1 and 2. Yep. It had to be. I mean, those are that's the mini movie that we get of Georgiou. They are a movie. And if anyone wants to hear me say anything more about those episodes,
oh yes,
I have a video essay that I'm very proud about on my YouTube channel, Completing the Shelf.
It's beautiful.
Arguing why it's one of the best Treks of all time.
Agreed.
But a short summary of that is, in Star Trek, even the most irredeemable, murdering tyrant, if put in the right environment, in healthy relationships, can become better. No one is irredeemable in Roddenberry's future, if given the chance to be in the right environment with the right relationships. That is, I mean, that's a core tenet of my Christian faith, and it's a core tenet of Star Trek. And so that character really resonates with me, but didn't until Terra Firma, until that change was shown. Like, we weren't able to fully see her change until she was put back into the mess of the Mirror Universe. Then we see she doesn't fit there anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And her goodbye with Michael out in the snow in that, every time. Like, I just tears. And those 2 strong women standing there and saying and not saying
Mm-hmm.
so much to each other, knowing it's the final moment, is so deeply moving. Yes, I can't say enough.
What an episode too. I mean, what a two-parter.
Mm-hmm.
And it proves
Mm-hmm.
that she can carry a story on her own. So like you said, I'm really excited about the Section 31 movie for that reason, but also because it means we're not entirely done with Discovery yet.
Yeah,
There's
agreed.
still a vital piece of Discovery's heart that has story to tell.
Fingers crossed.
Hmm. All right, Carrot Crew. Because this tribute to Discovery is quite lengthy, I've identified some natural intermissions for you to pause your podcast player and return when you're ready for more insight and celebration of this vital series in the Star Trek franchise. Let's fly.
Why there's no sun up in the sky, stormy weather, since my man and I ain't together. Keeps raining all the time. Life is bare.
All right, now we're going to move on to some secondary characters and also some characters that might have only been in this series for like one season. There are so many great characters in Discovery. It just fills out the world with all these little characters that play an important role, even if it's not a big role. So we're only going to have one of us give a summary of each character, and we're going to go back and forth just because of time. So I'm going to start with our season one captain, Gabriel Lorca.
I don't envy you having to distill him down.
Yeah, yeah, here we go. Convincing captain, a Shakespearean villain. Hashtag tragic flaw. No, darn it.
Ooh.
Hashtag tragic fall. And I guess
Oh,
I messed myself up because a Shakespearean tragic hero has a tragic flaw, and he literally has a tragic fall. And in his
yes, he
end,
does.
so trying to play him with that a little bit, but he's a masterful actor, Lorca, to
Mm-hmm.
fit in
Mm-hmm.
with the crew of Discovery and really embody the Starfleet mantras and ways and knows how to manipulate everyone, but still get his mission accomplished. It's incredible. Whatever you think about the character, he's incredibly brilliant and resourceful. So I had to choose the episode Lethe
Mm-hmm.
because my heart really fell for this guy when he seemed so broken with
Yeah.
Admiral Cornwell. Don't take my
Mm-hmm.
ship away from me. Like in the
Mm-hmm.
moment, we think he's just holding on to this thing that's normal, this normalcy, this thing that's allowing him to hide from his pain of being tortured and losing his crew and all that stuff. It's not true at all, right?
Nope. But you believe it at that point.
But he might be a little tortured about having to be here, and this ship is the only way he can get home. Like he's a man that just wants to get home
Yep.
too. Like he's a bad man, but we can empathize with that. But also, I love how he says to Michael, I need someone who will help me carry the day, and that's you. And that's why he's helping her with Sarek. Like that in that moment, Michael comes alive because someone believes in
Mm-hmm.
her and needs
Mm-hmm.
her. And she hasn't felt that for a while now. She not even for herself. So we
Yeah.
would not have Admiral Burnham at the end of the series without Gabriel Lorca.
Absolutely. And you think about how mean, we wouldn't have had much of anything because
Mhm.
she was pivotal to Lorca, and Lorca was pivotal to her. And such an interesting, different first captain. And at first, you're like, oh my goodness, I really am going to feel for this guy in a totally
Mhm.
different way. And then when you see the reveal, and, when you go back and you rewatch, and you're like, oh, I get so much of that
Mhm.
now. Like,
Mm.
it's brilliant. And, no matter what you think of the man, his ethics, his ending, the storyline, where is Prime Lorca? It was a brilliant portrayal, and that man is a brilliant man in any universe.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to bring us to somebody else who we've seen since the very beginning, and that is Kayla Detmer,
Yeah.
because she was actually on the Shenzo as well before she got her cool haircut and implant and all that. And I love that we see her grow into the relationship she has with everybody else, and especially with Michael. Though, I mean, Michael was her first officer
Mhm.
on the Shenzo, and then Michael betrayed them. And for her and Saru, they were there the whole
Mhm.
time. And for both
Mhm.
of them to realize the why and to get over it and come to trust and love her, what absolute great journeys there. But on her own, I love she would stand up to any pilot that you
Mm.
want to put her against. She
Mhm.
is an incredible pilot, and she's been through some stuff. So here's my words: pilot and friend, PTSD warrior,
Mm.
hashtag macho. And my episode is season 4, episode 10, The Galactic Barrier. Now,
Oh.
first of all, that episode, she flies through those little like bubbles just right. And my favorite part is how they're so used to like her getting through stuff just in time, and they get into the bubble and there's like 6 seconds left and the countdown stops. They're like, huh, 6 seconds to spare. That's because of Detmer.
Yeah.
Because she's awesome, because she's amazing. She does donuts in space in season 1. I mean,
Yes.
this is a pilot, and it's so neat to see because yes, it's one of the things we know most about her, and people can say what they want about the bridge crew, but it's a cool thing, and it's part of her story. And as you see, it's not just the PTSD that she gets when they crash, but that cycles back to, we find out later in season 4, she grew up in a really tough household and her dad
Mhm.
was not spectacular. And so she's got all this, and she even admits that she's a macho pilot who doesn't want to deal with this stuff, but when she knows she needs to, she does.
Yeah.
I mean, and she makes some mistakes. She lashes out at Saru's big dinner that ends up going, downhill real fast. She's at her breaking point. She's at the edge. But you watch her pull herself back in and put herself back together, and the people around her being okay with her taking those missteps and fixing it. Like, that is life. That is relationships. That is being supportive. That is found family. And it was really well done. And her buddiness with Owo will always be one of the things that I hope we get a series, a short trek, a long trek, a spin-off. I would love to see them on adventures taking the ISS Enterprise back to space dock. Like, that would be fine.
Stay tuned to at Shelf Nerds for forthcoming microtreks.
There you go. Excited for those.
Seriously, I got it's brewing. It's been brewing for days. I just haven't had time. But yeah, those two characters, and I mean, you could read in Life Itself in that,
Yeah,
yeah, that they're Oo and her are together. Because
I
one of the
hope
mouths
so.
like we're happy or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so.
Okay. Well, Detmer is a great character. I would have chosen maybe Rosetta for
Yeah,
her.
I thought about that one too. That was my second pick.
Mm-hmm. Because she gets a great performance in there. But it's time to go
Mhm.
on to perhaps her other half. We can only hope. Owo.
The hopeful other half.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Lieutenant Commander Owoshikun. Wow, what a
yeah,
fierce character on screen that has only become better and better. Definitely a warrior. And it was hard to choose an episode, but I just had to go with All in
yeah,
season 4.
yeah.
Kicking butt in the ring, but not right away. Like perseverance wins the day there. My 5 words: steadfast scrapper, scanning so smooth. Hashtag console reaction shots. Unfortunately, a
Oh,
lot of her time in Discovery is console reaction shots. But she's scanning. She's a smooth scanner. She's steadfast. She's a scrapper. And I was just going for all the S's too. So
yeah.
there's not much to say about her, but enjoy whenever she's featured, like in New Eden. That was my backup.
Yeah.
She's great there. She's great in All In. She's just believe in me. And yeah, I like the character, and I hope we get maybe she and Detmer can pop into Academy here and there, or
There you
whatever.
go.
That'd be good.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that you picked All In because another part of that episode that I really like is that she and Tarka have that little
Mm-hmm.
conversation, that little back and forth, like the who are you and what do you do? And like she kind of gives him some truth and he's just like, yeah, whatever. But I appreciated that little beat in there because that's two people you would never think of putting together. And that's probably exactly the conversation they would have.
Oh yeah.
And I really like that. So that's a great episode. And I really like to I remember People of Earth when they get
Yes.
down to Earth and they're by the big tree and just she shines like the
Yes.
joy that's just radiating off of her being back on Earth right there. And I think of her smiling in those big like white teeth. She's got the best, straightest, most
For
gorgeous teeth,
real.
and that smile is just beautiful, and it makes you feel you can't not smile back at it. So, what a fun character.
Definitely is.
All right, so let's move on to some more of our bridge crew, and I got Reese, which I was kind of excited about because he had a big season 5.
He did.
And yeah, but he is one of the few again characters that was there all the way since the beginning. Like he was there on season 1, he's been there every single season. We haven't gotten a ton, but now we did. And so my 5 words are mostly talking about this season, but here we go. Ship nerd into big chair.
Yeah.
Hashtag all 5 seasons. And I had to feature season 5, episode 8, Labyrinths, when he does take his time in the big chair and we see him step into it. And there were multiple times before then that he got called. Like I remember in Face the Strange, when Michael's taken Rainer into the ready room to tell him this is not
Hmm.
cool, you just shut this man down. But she gives him the con right then, like, yeah, he might have said something, but I trust you to like guide this ship while I go tell him what's up.
Yeah.
And I just really loved the bites of him that we saw here. And we saw him really growing into himself. And we saw previous Reese in Face the Strange too, where, we're having him and Rainer having this little buddy moments. And then that comes back later on and they have a trust there. And to know that in real life, that actor's wife was in active
Oh my
labor with their
gosh.
first child while he
Yeah.
was filming those scenes. Like, I could not imagine. Now, like, I don't know what it's like to be on the father side of that, but I could not imagine having a more high pressure situation in both your professional and personal life at the same time. So, mad props for Reese and all his development. And again, what a fun character. I really hope he shows up again as well.
It's I felt kind of sad for him that he missed the birth of his child. That's a huge moment, but I mean, if you have to miss it by sitting in the captain's chair, that's pretty cool.
And there are very few excuses that make it okay, but that might be one of them where it's maybe not okay, but it's a whole lot closer.
Yeah, it's helped pay for the hospital bills for one. But
Yes, that's very true.
yeah, I like Reese. He's only grown on me, and he's really good at the action. Like in what was the episode called? Lagrange Point, right? Him and
Mm.
and Yadira. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wish we got more from him. I like that he likes the 1701
yeah,
Constitution class. That's pretty cool, but we didn't get enough of him. But what we did get of him was really good. And I feel like seeing him in the captain's seat was like seeing Travis in the captain's seat in one of the
yeah.
recent episodes we reviewed of Enterprise. You just
Yep,
felt
I
proud. Like,
agree.
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Because before it would have been Nielsen or Arium,
Yep, yep.
and Nielsen's on Voyager.
Good for her too.
Yeah.
All right, so let's keep it going because we are 4 out of 20 supporting characters here. We
Yeesh.
got a lot.
All right. Well, the next one is a big one. The mother. The mother load.
Mm.
All right.
Kapla.
The mother load. Kabla. Faithful partner for the cause. Hashtag mother. It is Laurel. My episode is Point of Light.
Yeah.
I had to go Point of Light because she is a faithful partner to Volk slash Ash no
Hmm.
matter what. Even when she knows the very sight of her and the idea of her love kind of disturbs Ash on some level, right?
Hmm.
She loves him still and is faithful. But she's also faithful to the Empire and to the cause.
Yeah.
And so she'll play along with this game of killing, quote, her child and Ash, giving up her child for her empire. That's a
Yeah.
mother's sacrifice. It keeps the child safe. It keeps the children of her empire safe.
Hmm.
She's looking to the future in a very Michael Burnham kind of way, taking on a lot of burden. And so it's a shame we only got that character for 2 seasons and really 1 season and a little bit in season 2. Mary Chieffo is Chieffo, right?
Hmm.
She's an incredible actress that I hope we get
Yes,
to
she
see
is.
in Trek in another character at some point.
Well, and Laurel could always be around in Strange New Worlds.
Oh, totally.
So
Totally.
there are definitely some crossover moments there. And I know that the actress has said over and over again that she would be beyond honored to come back in any capacity. So yeah, Laurel is powerful. And I loved a look at a female Klingon who had that deep sense of what it meant to be Klingon. Like you always joke that Worf was more Klingon than the Klingons. Well, Laurel was one of those Klingons he would have aspired to. Like she was thinking long term, big picture, the ethics, the Klingon first.
Mm,
And what a what a neat character. And to see her change over the 2 seasons, and then to see when they find out that their son is already grown and working as a
yeah.
monk with the time crystals, and you see that part of her come out there, and the relief that he did grow up, he's okay, he's doing something important, like all those layers, and behind all those prosthetics,
Hmm.
bravo, it's a beautiful character that again I would love to see more of as well. All right, so speaking of incredible female characters from the early seasons of Discovery, I get the honor of talking about one of my very favorite characters in Discovery, and that is Admiral Katrina Cornwell. I love her, and every time I watch Discovery through again, I love her more.
Mm.
I I love how she. Well, here I'll do my words and my stuff first, and then I'll go into it. So my words are strength, caring, duty, no BS,
Mm.
hashtag phasering fortune cookies. I picked season 2, episode 9, Project Daedalus, because that's when she looks at Pike and he's just like, what are you doing? Why did we do all this? And
Mhm.
this is the quote I wrote down because I wanted, this is her in a nutshell here. You sat out the war because if we'd lost to the Klingons, we wanted the best of Starfleet to survive. And as this conversation makes clear, that was you and all you represent. And then he goes, thank you. And she goes, you're welcome. Now, will you get off my ass so we can get back to work? Like, that's Cornwell, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and she calls Leland and Pike when they're snipping back and forth and calls them on their manly BS. And like,
Hmm.
she comes in and she calls Lorca. And I love when she phasers those fortune cookies. Like, I feel that in my soul. Like,
Yeah.
not only was the wool pulled over her eyes by Lorca as a captain, but as a lover, as a friend, like, she's pissed and she's taking it out of those cookies. And I love it. That is just a pinnacle of her character to me, because you know what? I would want to do something exactly like that. But then she moves on. You
Hmm.
can tell she's pissed, but she's compartmentalizing because she is good at what she does. But she also understands people. I mean, Culber comes to talk to her as a former psychiatrist. She talks to Spock when they find him in season 2,
Hmm.
and she's going through all this. And she's such a good, ethical core admiral. And we get so many bad admirals. It is
Mm.
so nice to see her do that. And when she dies because she stays behind and detonates the missile, which why can't, if they can make the door that blast proof,
Yeah, yeah.
we're just not even going to talk about how silly that was.
He stands right there and he's not blind.
I know.
Tuvok got blinded by the Krenim torpedo.
I know. So, well, taking how that didn't have to happen the way it did, the fact that she did die in the line of service, saving more people, being for Starfleet, I adore this character.
Yeah, I mean, and her scream scene with Laurel.
Yes.
Very fierce.
Yes. And her talking down Tyler when he's having his complete panic attack and going, I can't move my legs. You have to get us through this. Like, she's cutting through the BS and doing what she has to do. She understands what is happening to him, but she also understands what needs to happen. And it was that almost was what I highlighted. Almost.
Yeah, I mean, I can't add much to what you said. That quote that you read is it's the pivotal scene for this character, demonstrating everything she believes in, that she's willing, she knows she sacrifices the ideals of Starfleet to do her job, but she doesn't let Chris do that. She's protecting it in him, and that's a leader right there. She's like, I'll do the dirty stuff so you don't have to, which is a little bit Section 31, but not quite, right?
Yep. I love her. More and more every time.
Now, someone else I want more of, I never have enough of, is Sarek.
Yes.
My first introduction to Sarek is in TNG.
Oh, interesting.
Or it could be the voyage home when he reconnects with Spock, right? That could be it, as just a little kid. But this new take on Sarek took some time for me to adjust to, but on rewatch, I really do like this because the actor is able to express a lot of complexity below the surface. And that he's not as sure-footed and not as the best dad that he could be. And I mean, we see that all the way in Journey to Babel too. So
yeah.
Sarek, my 5 words and a hashtag for this infamous Vulcan is peace without, not within. Hashtag impossible choice. And I'm choosing, of course, season 1's Lethe.
Yes.
The episode is a masterpiece on so many levels, but especially for the Sarek character. It shows why there's so much tension between him and Spock and between him and Michael. That he was stuck in this impossible choice and he just wants to be a good dad, but he couldn't because of his culture, because of xenophobia, I guess. But I like that we learn in the episode there's not peace within him, but he tries to portray this peace without, this calm, this Vulcan veneer. I almost chose, perhaps it's I can't remember exactly, Light and Shadows in season 2 when he's meditating and then he has that when they get with Spock.
The moment with Spock, when he's revealed.
I almost chose that. But I just wish we have had more touches with this character, with this actor, because I think he's really good.
Yeah, I agree. I've loved this actor for a long time. And before Discovery, I had most recently seen him on Orphan Black, which is another fantastic sci-fi show. And he plays this absolutely crazy, murderous assassin, completely different than Sarek. And I believed him as Sarek, having just really watched him a lot as this other character. And that's the mark of a great performance, because you can forget the other characters and go, yep, I believe this. And yeah, Lethe is one of my favorite episodes of the entire series.
Yes.
Like, I really like that. I like the context it gives. I like the retconning it does. That's gentle. I love the performances. I love all the Vulcan lore. And I really enjoy this portrayal of Sarek. And I like I like it showing him as a different dad to Spock than he is to Michael.
Hmm.
Neither one of them particularly great, but you can see he's trying and he's trying different things with each one. Success rate, not so high, but
And he's still better than Worf as a dad.
that's a low bar.
Yeah. No, I mean, Mark Leonard is an exceptional Sarek.
Mm-hmm.
No one could replace him. But James Frain does add another dynamic of nuance of interiority that I just found watchable every time I rewatch this series, especially in Lethe. So that's my pick for Sarek.
Beautiful. And I'm going to flip it over to the other side of Michael's adoptive parents now and do Amanda, who I also really like this
Amanda.
portrayal. I love this Amanda. I like how feisty she is. I
Yes.
like how intense she is. I like how determined she is. So here's my words and hashtag here. 5 words: love, nurturing, determination, yet control. Hashtag mama bear. And it's season 2, episode 7, Light and Shadows, where she's protecting
Hmm.
Spock. It's it's perfect. And not only does she mama bear on Spock when she's talking to with Michael and Pike in the ready room, and Michael says something, and Pike looks at Amanda and goes, "Is she always this bossy?" And Amanda shoots right back. On Vulcan, we call it persistence. And yes, she got it from me. And I'm like, that is the kind of mom I want to be. Like, yeah, listen to this. And I just, I love how she's fighting for what's best for her kids
Hmm.
overall. And she doesn't care. Like, I am a diplomat's wife. And if I have to use those loopholes, I am doing it because
Yep.
these are my children
Yep.
and I love you. And I love this portrayal of Amanda showing how, again, she takes in Michael, still obviously loves Spock, but she realizes that Michael has different needs. They both have different needs. She
Hmm.
loves them fiercely, but differently because they are not the same. And she wants them to come back together. She wants them to help each other. She's pushing for this family. And I love that she represents so much of what Discovery does. What is your blood family and your found family, because her family has some of both. And it's just really well done by Amanda in this series.
I love whenever she goes, husband, like
Uh-huh.
putting Sarek in his place,
Mm-hmm.
which he needs and which we all need. All of us
Oh
husbands
yeah.
need that sometimes.
Well, us wives do too. Everybody needs
Of
somebody who's
course,
going to
of
call them
course.
out when they're going too far.
But we're not allowed to call. No, I'm just kidding. Not in the same way, but there's this strength, this fierce ferocity with her.
Mm-hmm.
If her and Janeway are kind of similar in many ways, right? And I love Amanda in Strange New Worlds too.
Yes,
That's
me
one of my
too.
favorite Amanda episodes, honestly. But anyway, great pick. It's amazing now. In season 2, we've picked 7 consecutive episodes in season 2. From Point of Light
Oh wow.
to Project Daedalus.
Okay, well, I would like to say that right when I organized these secondary characters, all 20 of them, I did them slightly in chronological order, like
Yes,
when they
yes.
were introduced by season. So we will get some more, but that is a really cool, interesting piece of data right there.
Yeah. All right. I'm getting a very colorful spreadsheet, and that's fun. So,
That is fun. We've got some more season 2 people who got introduced to go into next.
yeah, Captain Pike, Christopher Pike.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, guess what? I have a character with my first name. It's awesome. And he's a captain.
And a
So,
good one
a
too.
great captain. Now, the first time I discovered The Cage, I was blown away of how incredible that series the series could be that grew out of that,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was like, what is this? Because I hadn't seen the Menagerie, I hadn't really seen a lot of the original series, but I was captivated by this, you know, burden leader. That's not what we got in season 2 of Discovery. He grew from that moment, and his verve for life and discovery was renewed. And there's nothing like Chris Pike. He's inspiring. He is the Boy Scout.
Yeah.
So my 5 words: the best of Starfleet embodied. Hashtag not Lorca. That's how he introduces himself. I'm
Yeah,
not Lorca. I'm
that's
not
very
him.
true. That's perfect.
He knew what the crew needed to hear. That first scene tells you everything about that character. It's so bold. It's so antithetical to Lorca. It's so antithetical to the tone of Discovery's first season, which was just a season it was in, not like a TV season, but the season of life, the season of Starfleet. It was in this
Hmm.
season of war. So it was heavy and dire, and Pike brought light. All right, so my episode for him, though, isn't very bright. It's Through the Valley of Shadows. And he is
Yeah,
that bright light in the shadows, but it's what a powerful episode that none of us knew was coming. I mean,
yeah,
there's no way we knew they were going to go back and deal with the menagerie and what we know, and just connect everything together and show that he's going to deal with this. I mean, this is something that's with this man for the rest of his life. And
yeah.
obviously, a lot is said about this in Strange New Worlds, but it is just fascinating that they did this right before the end of the season.
Hmm. Hmm. And not knowing that Strange New Worlds was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, let's give this guy this amazing piece of story that we may or may not ever get to talk about again. And it worked.
And many of us wonder, like, will I be able to not cling to or adhere to my core values even
Hmm.
in incredibly difficult, painful moments? And he calls them out. And
Yeah,
I think that's a powerful moment that we have to speak certain things out loud to ourselves to remind ourselves to be steady in those trying moments, whether it's making a moral or unmoral decision in a moment. Do we remember who we are, or who we say we are, who we want to be? And I
yeah.
find that moment powerful and so grateful for the character, the actor, and the written moment that the writers gave us.
Well said. All right, so another character that we saw first season that was a classic character that we got new life breathed into was Spock. And this one was tough for me. Like, how do you condense Spock into 5 words in a hashtag? And I know somewhere out there, Jim Morehouse is laughing, but I only had one season of Spock I
Yeah.
had to think about. So that helped a little bit. And I had to throw in here a personal thought. So here we go. My 5 words for Spock this season are classic character anew with beard, which personally, I really like Spock with the beard. I think it was cool. But and my hashtag is Vulcan brother. And I picked season 2, episode 10, The Red Angel. And I picked that one because one of the moments I liked best with Spock in this, because Spock was still a secondary character. Like he is a primary character in all of us Trek lovers' hearts, but in Discovery, he was a secondary character. He was there. He was a main player for one season, but he was there in almost in support of the Burnham arc, right? He was her brother. He wasn't Spock, he was Michael's brother. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a different way of
Hmm.
looking at him. And I love the scene in that episode where he comes and finds Michael and they work through the whole like Leland is responsible for her parents being killed, not Michael. Like she had just broken his nose and like he starts out by poking at
Hmm.
her and ribbing at her and then she's like, Spock, what are you doing? And then finally they have this beautiful chat, and at the end he adds that little bit of humor that we get from this version of early Spock where he's like, I would have really liked to have seen you break his nose. Like it was just, that's a brother, that's a moment. This is where I
Yes.
believe they are siblings, because it starts out with that like, siblings, I can poke you where it hurts because I know you, into a serious conversation, into ends with levity. And that's a very familiar pattern for a lot of people with their siblings. And it was just a beautiful little glimpse in Spock for this season of Discovery.
Yeah, he does a good job of peeling the
Mm-hmm.
layers back
Mm-hmm.
from Michael and revealing who she is in a
Yes.
similar way to Gabrielle Burnham does, that she just seeks these impossible, burdensome challenges to overcome her own insecurities
Hmm.
about her past, that she couldn't save her parents, right? So Spock points that out. He's very insightful
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
pretty mean in the way he points that out.
It is.
It's an interesting take on Spock. All right, we have another character
Absolutely.
introduced in season two I'd like to go into, if that's okay.
Hmm.
That is Nan. A cool name, a Barzan, which is like this one, not the best episode of Star Trek Next Generation they're featured. That leads to not the best episode of Voyager later on. But I like that we get this
Yeah.
character. She's gorgeous for one, all right. So I might have a little crush on her. She's beautiful, but also just a fun character. I like her more in later seasons, not as much season two. But here's my 5 words and a hashtag: kicking
Yeah.
butt, semicolon, making tough calls, hashtag yum yum. I hate the yum yum line, but it's like iconic non.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Like,
is.
I'm so glad that kind of personality was abandoned.
Yeah.
But my episode is Die Trying. I
I love that episode.
love Die Trying. It is so Starfleet,
Yeah.
for one. And Nan is great in it. And you really see this bond between her and Michael forming. And you learn more about the Barzans. And
Hmm.
the seed ship is such a cool idea.
Oh, it's so
And
cool.
Saru's speech at the end to Vance, just great moments all around. But it is central to, I think, Nan, and I'm glad she came back from this. But when I thought, oh man, she's leaving, I was really actually sad. I didn't know that I was invested in her until Discovery jumped away.
Yeah. I love that episode as well, and I like her as a character, and I like the fact that she is tough in a different way because she didn't have the same background of that whole first season and the Lorca-ness of
Hmm.
it, right? So she's coming in a
Hmm.
different way, but then once they jump to the future and you see that change with her on the seed ship,
Hmm.
you feel it.
She's
And
softer.
yes, and then you come back after and like her breathing apparatus gets upgraded, which is kind of cool. And man, when she's got like the one breathing apparatus she's holding to the side of her face during
Yeah.
Project Daedalus so that she can get Arium, and that moment where she does what Michael can't, like
Yeah.
it is, she's a great character and hard choices for sure. I mean, she's in security for a reason because she can do it well. So
Kicking
beautiful
butt,
choices.
making tough calls.
There you go.
And
So
and then bringing her back in season four to make the tough call because
yeah.
Michael might not be able to.
Yep.
Brilliant use of the character.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Yep. And I loved her with Saru in the very last episode,
Yes.
and she's like, "Remind me not to play you at Ferengi Rummy." Like she's the right person too. She is part of the family, so it was great to have her back.
Yes, it was.
All right, so speaking of members of the family we gain in season two, was a big season because we also get Reno, who is
Mm,
just such a highlight every time that she's on the screen. Bravo Tignataro for coming and creating a character like no other in Trek, and it's beautiful.
hmm
So here's my 5 words: witty banter offers needed truths. Hashtag
mm.
resourceful with snacks. And that can be either she uses the snack as a resource or she's only resourceful if you give her snacks. Either way, it works. So I'm
Yep.
pretty proud of that one.
This might be your best 5 words and a hashtag,
It
honestly.
is really high up there. So thank you. I like this one too.
Can you read the 5 words again?
Yes. Witty banter offers needed truths. And
Yeah,
then
so good.
hashtag resourceful with snacks.
So good.
And I picked to feature season 4, episode 12, Species 10C, where she's talking down book, where she does the black licorice where she does the black licorice trick. Like it's just a perfect moment because she has these snarky little remarks, but then she drops a truth bomb on you. Like she does it again with Culber when she goes to get her hangnail fixed and she's,
Mhm.
needs medical attention. Like she'll say these things and you realize that behind all of the snark and jokes is someone who is fiercely loyal, who wants to see the best out of everybody, and who really, really wants to help, but can't help herself having that little extra layer of ribbing in there. And I love that because, and this woman is brilliant and she saves the
Mhm.
day over and over again too. So just what a fun character, adds humor, but also adds heart. And she is just as tough as anyone on this show. I mean, when you think about how many people she kept alive on her own,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
holy bananas. Like, and she dismisses the amazing things she does, like, yeah, whatever. No, not whatever. She's amazing. So I love Jet Reno and I love the flavor of Trek that she adds. And I want a Vesper Martini ice cold from her someday.
And she can put Stamets in his place.
Uh-huh.
And that's fun.
Uh-huh.
That is fun. All right, another member of the family, but a very particular family. This is Gabrielle Burnham, Mama Burnham.
Mm-hmm.
My 5 words: selfless bearer of the future.
Ooh,
Hashtag Shalon Kakai. And
beautiful.
I'm picking Unification 3.
Mm-hmm.
Another masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching this episode and stumbling out of my bedroom in the morning. I think it was like Thanksgiving or something, going like, first of all, Spock, but second of all, what an incredible, exciting, emotional, engaging episode of Star Trek that had big things to say,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just people talking in a room.
Yeah.
And Burnham Gabrielle was at the heart of that, calling her daughter out.
Mm-hmm.
She is selfless because that had to be painful for her.
Oh yeah.
And she bears the future. And in that moment, she's bearing the future of her daughter. She knows her daughter needs to push through whatever funk she's in.
Yep.
It's also the future of the galaxy because without getting this SB19 data, they might not be able to solve the burn.
Mm-hmm.
But then going backwards, season 2, she's bearing the literal future as the Red Angel. So there's might be some similarities between her and her daughter in some ways.
Yeah, they feel great responsibility to save the galaxy, both of them, huh?
And because they deeply care for
Yeah.
others,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I love a person that sees that they are responsible for others when others might not think that that's a responsibility they should bear. Like if we had more people in the world that took on responsibilities that aren't necessarily theirs, but it needs to be done, we would
Right.
have a much better world.
We sure would.
So she's a great character. I'm sorry we didn't get her in season 5 at all. There just
Yeah.
probably wasn't room.
Yeah.
But
Well, she's off still rehabbing Javini, so she'll be
Javini,
back.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, speaking of people who try to make the universe a better place, I get Admiral Vance, and I absolutely love him as well. I like that we had two just solidly good, honest, hardworking admirals in this series. Like
In the
when,
dark, gritty Star Trek.
yeah,
There's no hope. There's no future brightness. But we have two of the best admirals in
yeah,
Star Trek.
absolutely. Like no knock to Forrest, but these two are great. And I like that, when Cornwell was done in the first two, they immediately came back with somebody else for season 3. They realized that
Mm-hmm.
they needed
Mm-hmm.
this touch point and this someone who was higher than our Discovery crew that we know and we get familiar with. And I love Vance. Like this is again someone who by the end of it, we don't know a ton about him, but we know enough about him as a person. And
Just a good man.
yes, he's a good man. He's a good family guy. He's trying to keep stuff together. He's trying to save lives. Like I like him a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
my 5 words are strength, patience, hope, pep talks. Hashtag Dadmiral. Because I mean, I know that's his nickname online, but he literally is a dad in this too and thinks about his family during dire moments, which I appreciate. And
Relearning geometry.
yeah, exactly. To help his daughter, which is sweet. And I picked season 3, episode 12, There Is a Tide, when he's having the back and forth with Osira and looking over
Mm-hmm.
everything. And he is doing his job and he's doing it well.
Yeah.
And he's giving concessions, but he's also not giving in. And it doesn't end particularly well, but he tries, and he's smart, and he's capable. And watching him do this is just incredible. Now, I really also liked when he and Tilly are back and forthing at the end of season
Yes.
4, when the DMA is about to get to Earth and all that, like when he's very raw and very open. But I had to pick him with Osira, because just when he throws in like how they replicate their food right in the middle of the negotiation, it's just puts her in an unsettled mood, because that was not what she was expecting. And it's one of those diplomatic things I can see him doing, and just to kind of test the waters again. And he's so smart and so handsome. And man, that gray uniform doesn't look better on anyone than it does on him.
Oh,
Perfect.
so clean.
Yes,
So clean.
dapper.
Yes, Dapper Dadmal.
Yes. Oh, and look at this. I segued us because gray uniform, and your next character
is Gray. Yeah, okay, 5 words. Second chance to guard life. Hashtag probe. And my episode is Stormy Weather. I love Stormy Weather. Another fantastic episode that's just classic, the crew trying to solve problems and science, while Gray is probing the inner mind of Zora and the emotional state of Zora. I never found Gray as compelling than in that episode, where just Gray's at the center of the narrative and the resolution. So, and also, like Hugh, like Gray gets a second chance at life. It's so the whole Trill concept is shocking, that the person's in there and they can, but they're not in there. They're not in control of the body like a gold host in Stargate. But then they can come out during these Jintara ceremonies for a brief time. And then in this situation, they bring it out all the way. So I'm not sure how all that works, but it is a really interesting thing. And they got another synth body, another connection to Admiral Picard and all that in Picard's series. So a lot of cool things with Gray. And I'm happy that Gray ended up living out their desired life as a guardian in training on Trill.
Yeah, I agree. And I like that scene too, where it's Gray and Zora, and they're figuring out what's going on together. And again, it's one of those thinking out loud scenes, which we talk about how wonderful they are. And this was done really, really cleverly as well. Okay, now I have to say I gave this one to myself on purpose, because
I knew you did.
When you write the scripts, you get to do that.
It had to be. I got Saru, right? So you get this one.
I get the other half. I get Tarina. I again love Tarina, and I realize as I'm going through all this and thinking about Discovery as a whole, that like 2 of my favorite non-main characters are these women leaders. And maybe is that where I am in my life? Maybe is that where I'm really aspiring to? Maybe whatever. But Tarina, from the moment she like hologrammed herself onto the Discovery Bridge in that incredible outfit with like the silver undershirt and all that, I gasped out loud. I absolutely like, and the way she holds herself and the presence she has, and the amount that you can see. Yeah, she's Vulcan, but she's from Navarre, not Vulcan, because she's got a little bit more humor. She's got a little bit more, deception is too strong of a word, but misdirection. She's got a little bit closer to the surface her emotions. Like you see her with Saru, and you feel
the smirk.
Yes, and that love and that desire and that passion and that closeness just rolls off her, and she's moving, I don't know, 3 tiny face muscles. So I love this character, and I love how she grows from probably we just don't really want to have anything to do with you, to all right, fine, we're kind of maybe going to help you, to ooh, I kind of respect you, to ooh, I really like you and respect you.
Let's get married.
Right, exactly. And like she grows and Navarre grows back into the Federation, and it's just really beautiful. So my words are careful yet open-minded - wardrobe goals # best of Navarre. And I really think, I mean, she's the president of Navarre for a reason because she really does represent her people. And how many times do we see her saying the people of Navarre won't do this? It doesn't matter what she thinks. She's doing her job for the people of Navarre. But then she also, the episode I picked was season 5, episode 7 with Eriga and her negotiations with the Breen,
Oh
because
yeah.
she was amazing. Mic drop. Like from the fact that she
Hmm.
made up, what is it, the transfer paperwork or whatever, which she says was better
Hmm.
than and more believable than the Tribble infestation. Like that's humor. But then when she shuts down Rayner by saying, do not equate a desire for understanding with a lack of nerve. And I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, I am using that one again because there's
Hmm.
truth. Then she's standing up to the Breen and like she mic drops him and she's like, yeah, we tried to be nice to you and you have done X and X and X and X. So now we're going to do this. Like, this
Hmm.
is amazing. This is why she's the president. This is why she's the representative of the Federation. This is why Saru loves her. Tarina is incredible and she always looks good doing it. So bravo.
That's
I
true.
love the character.
I can't add anything. I mean, her wedding dress in life itself.
With the Navarre symbol in it, like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful.
Hmm.
The bangs were a little short for me, but like the structural veil that mirrored other structural headpieces and veils that
Uh-huh.
we saw in other Vulcan weddings, and of course,
The
the
Paul.
yes, yes. Well, and even think in Strange New Worlds in Spock's dream, T'Pring has
Yeah.
on the fancy like
Hmm.
head. They always have a headdressy thing like that. That's so structural, and I love that she looks almost like she's wearing armor at the same time. That's the Romulan in there. Like, oh man, I
Hmm.
could someday we'll just do an Abby wants to gush about Tarina's costumes bonus episode. It will be just 3 hours of me going, yeah, and then and this and this.
I love the gentle wisdom,
Yeah.
and the emotion more on the surface, which, I've talked about when we talked about the Vulcan arc throughout Enterprise, of how these Vulcans are definitely evolving the story of Vulcan, passing through T'Lyn and
Mm-hmm.
Spock,
Mm-hmm.
where emotions or logic is just the beginning of wisdom, right? And then emotions are not something to be feared, but something to be used to propel you forward. Like
Yep.
T'Lyn is definitely that way. And
Mm-hmm.
then we see that arc find its fruit in Navarre. They can probably, because they have those emotions out, they can connect better with their Romulan cousins. And that's why we have logic extremists. So Tallinn is a great figurehead for where Vulcan culture is in this time period.
You said Talyn, did you mean Tarina?
Did I say Tallinn?
Uh-huh.
Well, I meant Tarina, everyone. All right. Well, I'm now want to talk to someone else that's perhaps growing into its emotions as well, and that's
Oh.
Zora.
Yes.
Zora, what a character. What a surprise character to grow out of a short trek, an
Yeah.
experiment. Because that's
Yeah.
what the short treks were. They're
Mm-hmm.
experiments with different types of stories. Little did we know how impactful that short trek, Calypso, would be
Yeah.
to the eventual outcomes of Star Trek Discovery. And Zora is at the heart of that. So here we go. 5 words. Emergent property desiring to serve.
Mm.
Hashtag Calypso.
Yes.
It was almost hashtag funny face.
Oh, that would have been cute too.
Yeah, my episode was hard, but I had to go with Butt to Connect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Zora episode where Zora comes into being and is participating in the debate about what she is and what she can become
Mm-hmm.
and what should be done with her and what her body is. Her body's the ship.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the most philosophical episodes in the series. It's fascinating, riveting, but there's no antagonist in this conversation. She's open and willing and knows there's a problem with her that needs to be solved. She just doesn't know what it is, but she's willing to create a kill switch to sacrifice herself for her crew.
Yeah.
to be trusted.
Beautifully done, both ends of that, the Zora end, and we talked already about the Stamets end of that, and then all the other characters around, Kovich and Saru and Gray and Adira, like all thinking and making these points, and Zora answering every single one. And Annabelle Wallace, who does that voice in that scene when she's being so vulnerable and like offering solutions, and then when they say, "You want to join Starfleet?" and she's like, like you can,
I would love to.
exactly. You can hear as much as a computer can be emotional. She's emotional. It's awesome.
That episode is just Starfleet was founded to seek out new life. Well, there it sits.
Exactly.
Right? It's that moment. It's that good.
Yeah.
Of an episode like Measure on Man, but really cleverly done because there's no antagonizing force in that.
Exactly.
It's people of good conscience and goodwill having a disagreement.
Yep.
Beautiful.
And having to voice everything. And Zora just so open and so earnest. And that's just wonderful. And when you find out she gave herself the mission to protect the crew, like, oh my God. She'll be right in the heart with the feels.
So sweet. Now, the story for Zora does not conclude.
Yeah.
Right? Because even after Calypso, now she's alone again.
Well, maybe she's allowed to move afterwards. We don't know the full red directive.
We don't know. And, you know, rewatching that episode Afterlife itself, there's a lot more change in Zora's voice and performance than I remembered. So there's definitely a evolution that definitely happened over that 1,000 years. So great character that there's still more that could be discovered, especially since she's just a voice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So speaking of stories I want more of, I'm going to go on to our next supporting character, and that's President Lara Rillick, who I, was not a huge fan of, besides the design and her makeup choices, like the whole Bajorn human Cardassian mix with the awesome glittery eyeshadow of season 4. Amazing. But I really grew into liking her a lot. And by the end of the season, I mean, I'm sure that was the plan all along, but I really liked her, and I was glad to see her back for the little bit that she was in season 5. So I have my 5 words being service to the bigger picture, #challenging questions, and I picked season 4, episode 10, The Galactic Barrier. And I picked it for a couple reasons, because one of the moments that I really liked in that one is that Michael passes the mic to her unexpectedly to tell everybody that the DMA has moved and is now threatening, Vulcan and Earth. And she takes a breath. She shoots her kind of this, what? Look, takes a breath, makes a gorgeous speech. But the part that I really like is later on, she asks Michael about it. She's like, why did you have me tell them? And Michael says, because you're still my president. And I needed to hear it. And to see her take those words in, because she and Michael have been butting heads since day one. Since they reopened the academy, they have had a terse relationship. And by that point, they come to the point where Michael says, I need something, and you're the one here to give it to me. And she takes it in, and their relationship is deeper because of that. And that's also the episode where she puts Dr. Harai in his place in Scrabble and, gives him a message in his game tiles, which I think was really smart and fun too. And you see more of her, and she opens up more, and, her partner's on the moon. Like there's a lot that happens in this episode, and there's a lot that makes her more than just the president, the politician, the smooth talker. She really becomes herself in this one, and I like it.
Season 4 is so strong because of that character, and that even Tarina and all those other delegates are on Discovery.
Yep.
And cut off from everything. What a great just situation to put all these characters in and see what they do. And yeah, I really love that arc of that president and her relationship with Michael. 2 strong leaders.
Yep.
Trying to figure out how to lead together and not step on each other's toes.
Yep.
What a dance. What a powerful way to present leadership.
Agreed. I love the character. She can come back too. Come visit the academy.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, someone that visits all sorts of places and times is Dr. Kovich slash Agent Daniels.
Holy bananas.
Holy bananas indeed.
Holy, or as Tilly would say, holy schnoodle.
Holy schnoodle. Yeah. Okay. 5 words. Curiosity, opaquely within the hierarchy. Hashtag infinity.
Perfect.
We still don't know what Kovich is within Starfleet or the Federation.
Right.
What's his role? What's his rank? We don't know. That's okay with me.
Mm-hmm.
I love it because we don't really know what his role and rank or anything else is in Enterprise.
Yeah.
But he's just this guy out of time in the future.
Well, and I like how he introduced himself as Agent Daniels. There's no rank in there. So
Yeah.
it's very nebulous still.
And what's his first name?
Crewman.
Agent Crewman Daniel.
Egg lover. Anyways. No, what a fun reveal that was. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah. But I had to choose. I couldn't choose life itself. I had to choose But to Connect.
Yeah, 100%. I would have chosen that too.
There's always a sense of curiosity in all of his interactions with everyone. And he's acting like he knows everything, but I think he's just enjoys thinking about everything.
Yeah.
And he has a little bit not more knowledge than others because he's lived so many lifetimes, right? He's probably seen a lot. So he can speak with some wisdom. But Daniels is practiced at speaking in riddle-like ways, right?
Yeah.
With Archer. And Archer just gets pissed off. He's helping everyone here in Discovery. So I just love this character, and going back to season 3 with the knowledge of who he is whenever I do a rewatch is going to be fun.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I enjoy the layers of mystery. I enjoy the little barbs and the unique quirks. And yeah, I can't wait to go back and rewatch too, knowing this, because I love it. And I think it was one of the best surprises in New Trek. Like, there's not a lot that surprises us, people who've been obsessing for decades. And this one completely surprised me. Like, of all the theories out there,
Yeah.
and I could not have been happier. And maybe does this mean he's possibly has one more connection to Future Guy? Perhaps, but
I was just gonna say he could still be Future Guy.
Or he could still be controlling Georgiou to be Future Guy, or like there's so many possibilities that are even opened up more now. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I like that there's still questions, but there's a very satisfying answer of who he is.
Yep. All right, I'm rounding us out with our 20th secondary or supporting character, and it's got to be the one that we saw just in season 5, and that is Commander Rayner. I love Rayner. Like, I love that we have been getting crabbier characters, but he was not crabby like Shaw was on Picard. He's his own version of crabby, and while I feel like, yes, he took the traditional arc of crabby to part of the family, it felt very genuine, and I really enjoyed watching him. So my 5 words are demotion to respect, terse focus, hashtag crabby competency. And I picked season 5, episode 4, Face the Strange, because that was the turning point for him. Going through it with Stamets and Burnham. I mean, he even says in there, it's not lost on me that this only worked because of all this and blah, blah, blah. And he goes too far in that episode. And yet at the same time, that's exactly what allows him to have this adventure and grow the way he does. And from that point on, he's got more than the 20 seconds of knowledge that, or 20 words of knowledge about each character. He uses some of that, and he goes further with it. And then he and Paul have a different understanding, and they're on a first name basis at that point. It's just that little bit more. And then he and Burnham have been through something together in a way that saved all of the work that they would have had to do through 5 episodes and condensed it
Mhm.
down into one by jumping them through
Mhm.
all this. And I appreciated how those little subtle changes went throughout the season. I mean, we didn't see him sit in that chair until episode 9, and when we did in the last second, it was
Oh,
amazing.
epic.
Yes, and earned, because we've watched this. We've watched he and Tilly come together. We've watched him and Reese come together. We've watched him and Reno have moments. Like, he really is having these relationships build and grow, and that is him only being there for that season allows for a different growth journey alongside
Yeah.
those characters who have been there for longer, and it was really nice to see those parallels.
I love when he hits the arm of the captain's chair.
Yes.
Just such a cool, unique moment
Mm-hmm.
that really I was just on fire at the end of the episode,
Yeah,
which is
and then
what
it
it wants
cuts.
you to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's like,
Exactly.
wow, what a way to end a moment.
Mm-hmm.
What a moment.
He and Frakes make a good team. They both do the action episodes well together.
Well, and it makes me think about like what other amazing Captain First Officer adventure episodes are there out there in Star
Mm.
Trek? Because I haven't thought about that kind of episode. T'Pol and Archer on missions all the time, so like
Yep.
there's tons to pick from. But I can't think of a lot of Picard Riker episodes when they're off the ship doing something together, or solving a problem just together, or you know, um, I mean, obviously there's Janeway and Chakotay
I was
on
just
in
thinking that time for the
Resolution.
bathtub of the monkey.
Yeah. Yeah. But then Kira and Cisco, when is it Kira is hurt and or is it Cisco's hurt and she's revealing that he's her emissary. Like
Yeah.
just thinking about these captain first officer relationships, it's really interesting, and this is top tier captain first officer episode.
Yeah, I agree. Nice way to frame it.
All right, Kara Crew, here's another opportunity for you to take a little break before you come back for more insight and celebration of Star Trek Discovery.
So, after that giant chunk, first of all, thank you, anyone who's sticking around for the rest of this. We are now going to go into our season features. We're going to take a condensed but deeper look at each season using this format. We're both going to give 5 words and a hashtag for the season. And then for seasons 1 through 4, one of us will give a haiku on the captain of the season and a haiku on the villain or the threats in, proud first flight tradition of haikus. And then both of us will come back in and give our top 3 episodes and a season grappler rating. The only change for season 5 is that we're going to do all of it because it's so fresh and we didn't get a chance to talk finale with each other too much yet. So we're both doing all the parts on season 5. But again, both 5 words and a hashtag, then one of us with a haiku on the captain and a haiku on the villain or threat, top 3 episodes, and a grappler rating. So let's go. Season 1. Chris, this is your season. Do you want to start with your 5 words or should I?
I'll go for it. Here we go.
All right.
Rediscovering Star Trek through antithesis.
Ooh.
Hashtag We Are Starfleet. That's literally the title of one of my video essays on completing the shelf, my YouTube channel, because I wasn't the biggest fan of season one at first until the end, and I had time to think about it and realized we're rediscovering what Star Trek is by looking at the opposite, like that darker tone, the heavier. But through that, we get to see these characters shine at the end and rediscover Starfleet and its core values. Um, Especially when Saru shouts, "We are Starfleet," right? That's a Star Trek moment for the ages. And so that is my 5 word and a hashtag.
My 5 words are Klingons, Vulcans, mirrors, Michael transforms. And my hashtag is Spore Drive.
Mm,
Because I really liked the three like chunks of world building we got in season one. That tons of Klingon world building, tons of Vulcan world building. Thank you, Michael, and that mirror universe deep dive. And it really is. It's Michael's story from mutineer to science specialist, and that Spore Drive is just so cool. My dad
yeah.
recently started season one for the first time, and he sends
Oh.
me a text and he goes, "Oh my god, mushrooms? A spore drive? What?" I'm like, just wait, Dad. You only started.
That is really cool that he's jumping into it for the
Mm-hmm.
first time. Jumping. All right, here we go. Ha ha ha. All right, haikus. A haiku for the captain. A pinch of the neck seemingly ends Michael's life, but evil redeems.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right? Michael's life to her ends, but the evil Lorca is the thing that gives her the chance to redeem her life.
Yeah.
And redemption is such a vital aspect of life to me. And so that a Star Trek series and the main character is centered around this idea of redemption is pretty special.
Yeah. That's well said. And that is a beautiful haiku. I've got no notes on that. I'm
Oh,
glad
well,
you did
good.
that one. That's fantastic.
We'll find out for the next one. Here we go. All right. For the antagonists, hatred binds houses, an irony of the many becoming the one.
Mm, that's really pretty.
So hatred is the thing that binds the Klingon houses together, which is a good thing, but that's like in contrast to the Federation, who's bound together but not by hatred. It's by, connection and love. So it's like the anti-Federation's happening to the Klingons in season one, which is I never thought of it that way until having to work through this haiku. So thank you for forcing me to do that.
Oh, you're welcome. And I like that. Yeah, it's we know so much about the Klingons already that this was such a reinvention that it's
Mhm.
interesting to view them in that way and to see them in a way that's different. So I like that take on it.
Okay, 3 top episodes. You ready? Do you want
Uh,
to do it?
I'll go first. All right. So a lot of times I feel like I have a top two, and then the third one is like tied with 5 episodes. So the three I settled on are Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad. You know I love a good
Uh-huh.
time jump episode. Lethe or Lethe, love that one. We talked about that already. And then I really like Will You Take My Hand, the season ender. I think
Uh,
there's just so many pieces that wrapped up well there, and so many. I really enjoyed the after all of the action is done and we see Michael back in front of the tribunal, everybody at the academy, whatever they're calling that. And then you see the
mhm.
scene with her and Amanda, and they're in the umbrellas in the rain. And I just feel like this wrapped up this first chapter of what we see of Michael Burnham really nicely. So I like that one. I feel like it wrapped up enough threads. I felt very satisfied at the end of season one.
Well said. I do like I think I have trouble with that last speech because it feels like
Yeah, I know you've
out of
said that.
place.
Yep.
We've said that before, but I do like how Starfleet it is. And again, like we're rediscovering Starfleet and Star Trek through the antithesis of that whole season, how heavy and dark it is, but it ends with the light.
Yep.
So great pick.
Yep. All right, what are your top three?
All right, my top three are Context is for Kings. I mean, all-time classic, right? And then Lethe, of course.
Yeah.
And finally Magic to make the sanest man go mad.
See, I had a feeling we were going to have 2 out of 3 the same most seasons.
Yep.
And then, yeah, I'll tell you that there are so many that could have been in my third spot that rotates through. That this was the hardest part of this entire prep, was picking top 3 episodes for each season.
Honestly, it was the easiest one for me. I just did
that's
it.
funny.
But the last chunk of Discovery is hard to separate because
Yeah.
it's so serialized in that
Yeah.
moment with the Mirrorverse. So like I was struggling to pick one of them because I like the Wolf Inside. I do like
Mhm.
that, but it's hard to watch too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy with my picks there, and that's a wrap on our thoughts on season 1.
You
Right?
forgot your grappler rating for this season.
Oh no, the pressure's on.
Don't think you're getting out of it that easy. What's your overall
Well,
grappler for season 1?
if you asked me in 2018, it would have been different than what it is now.
Me too.
But right now, it's an 8 out of 10. I think it's a really tight story that gives a complete arc. If the series ended there and there was no more, it's a satisfying chunk of a story.
Interesting. Well, I ended up very close to you. I gave it a 7.5. It's a really good start. Lots of solid things. I think you could tell that they changed behind the scenes a couple times
Yes.
during.
Yes.
So that knocked it a little bit for me. But 7.5 is a beautiful overall season rating. So that was a good solid start.
Yeah, and it gets stronger with every rewatch
Yes.
for me.
Yes, it does. I agree.
That's why it's an 8. Even rewatching it leading up to season 5, I came to love it a lot more and was like couldn't stop watching the season.
Agreed.
Which I know who I'm talking to.
I have no control when it comes to
He has
Discovery.
lost all control.
Yep, sure have. All right, so speaking of control, let's move on to season 2. That was very nice. I didn't even plan that one.
That
All
was
right.
perfect.
So I got the poetry on this season, so I'll go first with my 5 words and my hashtag. For season 2, my 5 words are tangled timelines, new old friends, hashtag Red Angel future.
Very good.
I like
Tangled
that one.
Timeline. Yep.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right, your
For
turn.
sure. All right. Character analyses reveal inner soul.
Nice.
Hashtag shouldering burdens.
Ooh, that's really nice too.
We're learning about Spock's interior.
Yeah.
His dyslexia. We're learning about Michael. We're learning about Gabrielle.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Pike starts shouldering
Pike,
his.
right? There's so much character analysis and revealing their inner soul. I had to capture that.
Very nice. Well, I'm going to say, let's go right into my haiku because
Please.
You're going to laugh, right? This is.
Oh, yes.
We definitely are on some of the same wavelengths, and a little bit of the humor I liked from Pike is in here. So here we go. My haiku for Captain Pike, season 2 of Discovery. Lorca's opposite. Pike's fate is sealed through crystal. Intro to the hair. And I wanted to put something in there because one of the things I liked about Pike is he is, and you said this in your character analysis, which I'm up there going, oh my God, look at us brain twins. He's so opposite of Lorca. And that line is so pivotal. And then he really does. He chooses to seal his fate. He doesn't have to. He chooses. We've talked about that. And then Pike always has that humor, that dad joke factor, and
Yes.
I wanted to add something in there that added the levity of what it feels like to have Pike as the captain. And man, that hair is legendary. So yeah. So that was my thoughts on that one. And then into Control and Leland here. So my haiku on the villain or threat. AI should not choose. Leland is just a meat sack. not your sphere data.
Yeah. The meat sack. Ooh.
But
And I'm glad you got the sphere data in there
mhm,
because that's such a well, that's Zora in the
yeah,
making.
yep,
It's infant
100%.
Zora. Yeah,
Well, and that's what this whole season comes down to. That is the critical element that's going to seal the fate of the galaxy, this data.
hmm
And like, how Star Trek is it that it's not an object, it's not a crystal, it's not what it's data. It's literally data.
knowledge.
Yeah, knowledge. So that could not be more Trek.
Mm, I love it. Well done.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to throw it to you now. What are your top 3 episodes of season 2?
New Eden, an O ball for Charon, and the Sound of Thunder.
Interesting. All right, so mine definitely The Sound of Thunder. I absolutely adore that episode. Through the Valley of Shadows. I find that one so moving and so gripping, and I'm a sucker for everything time. And
hmm
then I cheated again and I put Such Sweet Sorrow parts 1 and 2 because I loved how this season pulled everything back together. I loved the little like montage of the Angel and how we figured everything out. I loved wrapping all it up. I love we brought back Serana and Poe and like
Yeah,
all of that. The battle with Control is an incredibly gorgeous space battle. So like that
sure.
had to be in there. And it sets up the big change and the effects. I remember the first time that I watched Michael jump as the Red Angel, and there's that beat of silence as she gets
Mm.
sucked in, and I remember holding my breath, and it felt like, when am I going to get to breathe again? When am I get? Oh my God, there she is,
Mm.
and that image has just stuck with me for years. So had to throw those 2 in there, and they are one big story. So too bad. Our pod, I cheated.
Hey, we like more Star Trek.
There we go.
They're one story.
They are one story. They're one story for sure. So, all right. And I'm going to wrap it up with my final season Grappler rating for season 2 is an 8.0. I felt like this one improved on last season. We gained new depth in characters. It was definitely a little bit more cohesive behind the scenes. The production values just went up, up, up. And I just find the pacing worked for me a little better than season 1. But either way, both great starts, and I love season 2. So how about you? What's your Grappler rating for season 2?
It's so funny. I'm a 7.5. This time
Ah,
we flipped
look at that.
because I can't get beyond the incoherence of the plots in
Uh,
season 2 because they have change of leadership behind the scenes. It doesn't all logically work together, but I'm still compelled and pulled through the journey by the characters and the story. It's just, it's hurt a little bit with me when I have to stop thinking. And if I have to stop thinking about Star Trek, it gets hurt a little bit. But obviously, we love this season
yeah.
because there's only 2 episodes we didn't pick in this season, Brother and Perpetual Infinity.
Oh, that's funny.
That's it.
Well, that speaks highly of it as a whole, then.
It does.
All right, so we are flying through season 3. This one's yours, Chris. So you want to start us off, or do you want me to?
I got it.
All right.
Help us to look up. Hashtag Giotto.
Ooh.
And I love that speech from Saru to
Mhm.
Vance and Die Trying when Saru's recalling the artist Giotto,
Mhm.
showing depth to get people to see a better future, to see more, and that Discovery and their crew kept together could be that for the
Yeah.
Federation in a time when they've kind of lost their way. Saru is capturing what Star Trek is to us, right?
Yeah.
In that moment. So I
Yeah.
had to capture that idea in season 3 because that was the big idea. I mean, just think about the promo art of season 3, Burnham with the flag of the Federation, like forging forward with her crew to bring that flag back to its standing. So I think I tried to capture that idea.
All right. Well, I like that. And I took kind of a different bend on this one. And
Good.
I think it balances really well. So my 5 words, and this one has an apostrophe S in there. So burn futures a learning curve, and then hashtag new characters. And I did this because I feel like it really was a learning curve. They got there, they were
Yeah.
different. They had to figure out how they fit in. They were trying things people hadn't before. We still bumped up against stuff like that. And there were so many new characters in this season. This is where we start really ramping up all those people who start making this feel like a full universe. I mean, this is the season we had to drop people who were only in a couple episodes here and there, like
Yeah.
because there were so many of them that popped back in and around. And I really appreciated that. I mean, we didn't talk about so many characters in season 3 because we would have been here for another extra hour. And I really liked how that made it feel different and deeper at the same time.
Yeah, you're really right. They went deeper and wider in this episode in terms of the number of characters. Well said.
All right, I'm ready for some poetry.
Yeah, let's get into the captain's haiku. Captain from the crew hears with moral clarity, leads the family.
Oh, that's perfect.
It's Saru. He's not of the crew. It's interesting. He never was promoted.
Yeah,
officially.
that's true.
Crew made him captain. And then that just became official and was accepted by Starfleet.
Yeah.
It's really, that's the only time that's happened.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, Picard became the acting captain probably of the Stargazer, but I'm sure at some point it was made official by Starfleet.
Right.
So it's a beautiful, he grows from the crew. That, how can you not have more belief behind you when your crew makes you the captain?
Absolutely. And that was just such a nice way of because that's still Saru in season 5. He's still of that crew. I mean, he makes the point of that, and they will always be his family. Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Now for the antagonist. This one was harder.
Yeah.
There's different choices you can make, different directions. Who are you going to talk about? So let's see if you can guess or if I'm clear. A cry echoes far, locking all in loneliness. Isolation kills.
So the burn is the villain? Or the
burn
antagonist?
is the villain.
Yeah,
it's the antagonist. It's that burn prompted by the cry, but really the real villain is isolation.
Yeah.
Caused by that burn. And it kills Starfleet. Everyone's soul is a little darkened.
Yeah.
Which is why, Saru is like, we could brighten you up.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Those are my haikus for season 3.
Those are beautiful. So, top 3, and again, a little bit of cheating. I have Terra Firma 1 and 2. It's one story, thank you.
Of course, yes.
Unification 3 and Die Trying. And I have to say, Unification 3 is one, when I first watched it, I was not as impressed. And with every rewatch, it gets better. Like, it was middle of the road for me. And now every time I watch it, it gets higher and higher and higher.
Good. It's so great.
It is. But again, it's so hard to choose because there's so many good ones. So your top 3, what'd you land on?
Die Trying. Unification 3. And Terra Firma Part 1 and 2.
Yay!
Which now has 4 picks. Terra Firma Part 1 and 2.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
In this episode.
Doesn't surprise me. There's a reason that you made a whole essay on it.
Yep. It's a good one. All right, now we can do some ratings. Tell us your grappler.
All right. So I have to say that this one, I love parts of it. I love so many of the characters, but the resolution with the scream really just still kind of it brought it down just a tinge for me. So this one is back to a 7.5. It is still a great season. Visually, this season is gorgeous. Gorgeous. And this season probably has my favorite overall soundtrack of music of any season of Star Trek that I have. Like, I love the music of this one.
Georgiou's Goodbye.
That is top three Star Trek music cuts of all time for me. So it gets a 7.5. Lots of great pieces. Didn't quite stick the landing, but 100% worth many rewatches. How about you?
Totally agree. 7.5 for the same reasons. That final the cry as the initiation of the burn. I just have to put it in my mind as it's figurative. I mean, it actually happened, but it's when Star Trek is going figurative to make a comment on humanity, just like Star Trek Beyond uses art to defeat the bad guy because it's music. It's like kind of corny, but it's corny in the way that only Star Trek can be, and it still kind of work. But it does not live up to the hype of what the burn is.
Yeah.
In my mind, still a great season though. 7.5, and like we've said, we're two teachers. That means that's a pretty good grade. Yep. You're average. You're doing well.
Yep, you're 75% of the way to perfect.
Yeah.
3/4 of the way.
Oh, I was so jealous that you got season 4. So take it away. It's a great season. Go for it.
It is a great season. So, all right, my 5 words in a hashtag. I have high concept sci-fi reaches far. And my hashtag is barrier, because I feel like barriers of many types were confronted in this season. All right.
So good.
How about yours? Well, thank you.
All right. Bridging the seemingly unbridgeable together. Hashtag light and hydrocarbons.
Ooh. Nice.
I just love the way they communicate in those final couple episodes. So brilliant, so Darmok of them. It's probably took forever in the writer's room to figure all that out.
Yeah.
Like, come on. That's so complicated.
They must have had the biggest flowcharts ever, wall size.
Yeah. But so wonderfully depicted graphically so that it's easy for us to understand.
Yes.
Just a triumph of design and storytelling. So yeah, that's it.
Nice. It's a good summary, and I like again how we're complimenting each other on them. So it's nice to have slightly different takes on this big story, because there's a lot going on in this one. So
yeah.
All right, here's some poetry that's really distilling down, and my haiku on the captain, because we really kind of had 2 captains on the bridge this season, which was fine. So here we go. Burnham and Saru, deep hurts, big swings, talking works, past the barrier. I brought my barrier back in there because I mean, there's so many barriers between people, between universes, between cultures. Like, it just had to be in there. And Burnham and Saru both pushing past that throughout this season is just
a yelling.
Yeah, there you go. That yes. You know what? I didn't. Saru's yell.
The sound he makes is so weird. And disturbing.
I love it when he yells it right back at Tarka in his face. Oh, that's perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, it is.
All right, and my haiku here for our antagonists. Again, there's kind of 3 of them here. Some of them intentional, some of them not. So each one got a line. So here we go. DMA, where next? Tarka forces decisions. 10C didn't know.
It's a hard one, because there's a lot going on with that.
Because the DMA is like a threat, but it's not sentient. Tarka is just broken and doing what he thinks is best, so not necessarily villainous. And the 10C didn't know, and when they found out, they stopped it. So there wasn't really a villain, but there were plenty of antagonists. There was plenty of threat in this season, whereas there was not. And that's part of what made it such a good season, is that it was Nebulous who you're blaming for all this, because there isn't really blame. There's reasons, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not things that I love this season. So
Yeah. Yeah, if Tark is a villain, then so is Book, and Book's not a
exactly.
villain, but
Exactly.
he is antagonistic against the crew.
Exactly. So it's a very polychromatic season, that's for sure.
Yeah, indeed.
All right, so what are your top three in this season? I bet you we've got two of them the same.
All right, Stormy Weather,
Hmm.
but to connect, I've chosen 3 times,
Yeah.
and then Species 10C.
See,
This was a hard one because I could choose the last 5 episodes.
I completely agree. Yeah. It the back half of the season is exceptional.
I mean, Stormy Weather on, besides a little dip and all in, is just phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Well, and all right, so Stormy Weather was my backup. It was one of my absolutely was up there with the 7 other episodes I wanted to put in the third spot. But here we go. My top 3 are But to Connect, Species 10C, and I go back and forth between which one of those is my favorite and my second favorite, daily. They're both so good. And then it was almost Stormy Weather, but I had to go with The Examples because I really
knew it.
like that episode. And I know our co-host Emerita, Melanie, says that's one of her favorite episodes of Discovery overall. There's just something about the performances in that episode.
It's classic too.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. It's got so many moments in there, and they bring back the Lolobi orb and the connection to Enterprise and civilization and that family tree. And that's one of the episodes that I think what pushed me over is that, like I said, I love the soundtrack to Discovery, and this season I loved some of the cuts from The Examples. They're on my Trek favorites playlist, and besides the actual Zora singing Stormy Weather, there aren't as many in that one, and that just put it that little bit over the edge for me, because I'm I listen to the music of The Examples all the time, so it had to be up there.
It's a great season.
It is. So how are you rating it?
9.5.
Ooh, look at you.
I can't tell you why it's not 10. I just, my gut was it's not 10, but it's 9.5. It is so good. So, yeah. I think it's Discovery has found what it wants to be. Season 3, it's we don't want a traditional bad guy, so we'll do this thing. And then well, that didn't quite work. But season 4, we don't want a traditional bad guy, so we got these things. And it's perfect.
Well, and this is such a divisive season. People either really, really like it or really.
I don't understand. I really don't understand.
I can't either. It's so smart. It's so
the first couple episodes, there's some lull in there that seems disconnected, but that's how you develop characters too. But yeah, I get it. But most of all, once you hit Stormy Weather, it is just some great Star Trek with big ideas and smart people.
Well, I fall on your side here because I had the exact same rating. It's a 9.5 for me.
Right.
I love this season. It is such good Star Trek, and the fact that it was done during COVID and came out after, it's amazing. I love this season. I would suggest it to anybody who enjoys really smart, high concept science fiction.
Yeah. It's almost like a reset for the series again, in a way, because Michael's the captain. It's the first time she's captain.
Discovery reinvents itself a little bit all the time.
Wait a minute. Season 4 and 5 are the only seasons that have the same captain.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. And rightfully so for Michael to get that honor.
All right, well then you know what? That's a great segue. Let's move it on to season 5. We both
Let's
did
do it.
everything on this one. So I started last season. You start us out this time.
Okay. Solving the puzzle of life. Hashtag the chase. Which had to be hashtag the chase,
Well,
right?
here's mine that is like the perfect complement to yours, where I did hash or
Biscuits.
I no, not biscuits, but credit to the Scorch out there who, at the beginning of this season, wrote, what a shame that this lady didn't get her bussin' recipe for biscuits or her recipe for bussin' biscuits, and it's the Cardassian scientist from The Chase about that conversation with the Klingon scientist about this could all be a recipe for biscuits, and then after the finale, retweets it and goes, "The worst part of this season." Still never got that recipe for biscuits. Like, that was funny. And that would have been a great hashtag. But in compliments to yours, my 5 words are Clue Trail and Breen Culture, hashtag life itself. So look at that. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
both
yeah.
really well done and very complimentary there.
I like that you got the clue trail. It's a simple narrative device that I'm glad they didn't shy away from because it's so simple.
Eh,
Because it really just
It
really
worked.
works.
It sure did.
Yeah.
Oh. All right, let's bust out some poetry. Your captain, Miss Michael Burnham. What's your haiku?
Mm. She learns that life comes not from technology, but from family bonds.
Oh, nice.
So her family on Discovery, but also her family in the future. Her son, her husband. I'm supposing that she marries Book. So yeah,
Very nice. Mine is similar.
let's hear your captain one.
Here we go. Your red directive, examine inside and out. Michael proves worthy.
Mm,
And it's more she proved worthy to herself. And that was
yes.
the whole journey of this series. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, you just made me think your haiku was so good. It made me think of Q's last speech to Picard in All Good Things,
Oh,
right?
that is a beautiful compliment. Thank you.
It's it's great. All right.
That's the one I really like.
Yeah, that is the one. All right, my haiku for the antagonists. Breen vie for power in strict hierarchies, sealed in uniformity.
Mm,
They're stuck in
nice.
their suits. They're fearful of coming out of it, right?
Yeah.
In fact, it's a taboo. It's like you're hated if you do that. So interesting.
It is interesting. I took a different view. I didn't really focus on the Breen as much, and I talked more about
Mm.
the technology itself being a possible threat.
Oh,
So yeah,
okay.
again,
Cool.
nebulous idea of antagonism in the
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
season. So all right, here we go. So mine says tech to control life. No one should have that power. Makers
Mm.
are unknown.
Yes.
So I really,
And that
again,
last line. That last line.
ooh, I know. I love that. I
Me
love that
too.
it was left like that. It's just
Me
the
too.
perfect ending because it's very Star Trek, and open-ended endings are life. Like, rarely do things wrap up in a nice, neat little bow.
Okay, so thank you for saying that because something I've just realized today, or maybe yesterday, was all the shifting of crew and the ins and outs of everything. Everything's always in flux in
Mm-hmm.
Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
That's life
That's
itself.
that's life itself. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Things don't always make sense. It's not logical, not coherent. There's season 2,
Yeah.
right? That's life itself.
Yep. It sure is. All right, so let's go and name some episodes because I think we're going to say those same 2 words again here. What are your top 3 episodes for the season?
Face the Strange.
Mm-hmm.
Had to pick. It's a top tier episode of Star Trek.
Yes.
Labyrinths. Again, I really love the interior work that Burnham does. And man,
Hyro. I
yeah,
love
she's
Hyro.
fun.
I want her book necklace.
Yeah, yes. But David Ajala.
Oh, yes. I want his
Wow.
book
What
necklace
a
too.
performance.
Literally.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the book pun was so fun
I
too.
know. I know.
All right, my last one is Life Itself. Yeah.
We have the exact same top three for this season.
Oh my goodness. This was the hardest
Exact
season for
same.
me to
Yes, it
choose.
was. Yes, it was. Besides Face is Strange, which was up there, and I knew
That
that
was
was
easy.
it.
Yeah.
The rest of mine, and it's funny because I've been watching people rank them online as they drop and go,
hmm
and
hmm
I've been lining up with a couple people pretty well. And then I've been doing some rewatching, knowing we were doing this,
hmm
and as the season wrapped
hmm
up, and I this is the best I can do for today. I have
Yeah.
zero promises that anything besides Face is Strange would make top three tomorrow
I
because
mean, Under the Twin Moons
Mm.
is top two because the Saru and Michael.
Oh,
Like I just
yes.
watched that yesterday. Is so
Yes.
good.
I know. There are so many highlight like none of the episodes in this season were not good. Like all of them are things I'm excited to watch
The
again.
weakest one to me is Mirrors. I never
Yeah.
rewatched it, and it might be stronger once I rewatch it, but I never rewatched it.
It's either Mirrors or Janelle for me. And not because the
Yeah,
performances aren't incredibly epic, but
yeah.
because I didn't find the story resonated with me
It's
as
small.
much.
It's a small story,
Yeah.
but yeah, Wilson Cruz,
Yeah.
just his voice.
Oh
This guy
man.
works out.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So, what did you rate this one for grapplers?
Man, this was really hard to rate because of recency bias, right?
I know.
So my immediate gut was 10 because life itself is a movie.
Yeah.
It is a full-blown movie.
Hmm.
Like I just watched it again last night. I'm like,
So did I.
this this set piece sequence in this labyrinth world, whatever it is incredible and just goes on and on and on. It's like a Marvel movie in its action. It was marvelous.
Yeah.
But the season lacks some of our main faces, not the main characters, but the main faces that have been there since day one. So I could not give it higher than a 9 because of that. The story is fantastic. The story is a 10. But because we don't have everyone the whole time, especially Saru, um, it's a little weaker. I could have done with, I felt like they were setting up in Janal this story of logic extremists and politics on Navarre and Saru and Tarina navigating that. Yeah, I felt like that was coming and it never came.
Yeah.
Um, so me and you have said many times the lack of Saru lowers this season for us. And so for me, that lowers it to a 9. What does it do for you?
Well, we are very in line this season because guess what? It's a 9. And
Oh
you
man, I
pretty
love
much
that.
just rattled off exactly what I was going to say. And I think this means that on average, we had the exact same scores, just in a very slightly different order. Like,
Yeah,
which
pretty
shows
good.
why we podcast together because we help each other and we end up on similar pages. We are, if you like our flavor, you're going to get a bunch of it here. So
That's true.
have fun.
Okay, Carrot Crew, this is our final little break before we wrap up our thoughts on Star Trek Discovery.
All right, now this has been a long podcast, but of course we cannot go out without doing a special something. So, Chris, I'm going to let you take us into a different type of animal tonight.
Well, I heard a very happy, I don't know if it's happy. I heard a sound from a cat, which means that it is time for our Grudge Grumbles for Discovery. For this series long review, we will have a pick for each of the following categories. We're going to think about and pick something for theme, a production element, and just a wild card.
I was just going to say these I found were either one of them I knew right away, and the other two, oh my God, did I struggle? So
Mm-hmm.
I'll be
Mm-hmm.
happy to go first
Same.
because it took me a while to get to this first one here.
Yep.
So, all right. So this one is a theme. And how many times have you heard us say in these hours you've been listening to us about found family and
Mm.
connection and relationship? So my first theme in this is found family. And I had
Yes.
to call it out because what I love most, and I realized this watching through Discovery, is the relationships. The Michael and Saru friendship is paramount to me. It rivals Tuvok Janeway. It is just so
Spock
good.
Kirk.
Yes, it is everything. Jordy and Data, like these
Yeah.
two get each other. And when Rayner says in the last episode, he's like, "Oh, I found this guy wandering around, picked him up," and that hug and that moment between
Mm-hmm.
them is everything. I love that relationship, but also the relationship between Tilly and Burnham. Like that is gorgeous throughout the whole thing, and how real it is. And like Tilly will call out her hair, and they made fun of that in
Mm-hmm.
Face the Strange, but that is Tilly. Like noticing the things. Like if you spent all those hours getting your hair braided, somebody better say something. Like that. That's a real relationship.
Yeah.
Culber and Stamets finding Adira, and then by that, then there's Gray. Like we have mentioned over and over and over all of this, and even we find out that Book's brother is, brother means something different in my language. That's not bio family, it's found family in
Mm-hmm.
a different way. That's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
throughout this, and it brings in the diversity then of family, because you are finding your people, you're finding your tribe, and you are protecting them as much as you would blood family, because it is those relationships that will save you when you need it, and we will all need it at some point. And that's my favorite theme of Discovery.
Wow. What a well said, well argued theme.
Oh,
Because it's definitely true. It's one of the things I like about Voyager too, but
mm-hmm.
Discovery does it on a mega scale because there's so many different found families within the found family of the Discovery.
Yeah. It took me a while, like I said, to figure out how I wanted to say this, but once I hit it, I'm like, yeah, that's why I have no self-control when it comes to watching Discovery, because this is what I want life to be like, finding your people and
Mm,
then saving each other over and over again in major and minor ways all the time. That's what you do for the people you love. End.
mm. Period.
Period. So, with that punctuated sentence, what's your theme? What's your grudge growl for theme?
Self-insight breeds wiser decisions.
Ooh, that's good too.
Right? The series about self-discovery and learning who you are. And because of that, you can make good decisions. And in the end, Michael makes an incredible decision by not using the technology, in fact, destroying the technology.
Mm-hmm.
And would season one Burnham make that decision? Maybe. She might be more
Mm.
drawn to study it, like
It,
Stammet wants to,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, did she have to go through all this to be able to make that decision? No, I don't think that's true. But I think every character is making better decisions based off of their experiences and their self-insight. So Rue has it. Even in season 5, he realizes he's trying to protect Tarina, and that's not what he needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes from a place of love. But so he makes a better decision. So all the characters are going through all these decision-making processes and learning about themselves along the way, and I really appreciate that. process. Let's see. I think I had a few more notes there. Tilly, all is possible. She does self-insight about why she
Yeah.
wants to be captain and realizes she doesn't want to be captain. She wants to be seen.
Yeah.
And maybe she can do something better as a teacher. Hue and Whistle speak.
Mm-hmm.
This self-insight about this experience of feeling part of something greater than himself. He starts making different decisions based off of that. And Saru and an Obal for Charon, like when he
Mm-hmm.
realizes his entire culture is a lie,
Mm-hmm.
that last scene is a lie,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
just hear him, right?
Yep. Yep.
Ferocity in his eyes. His eyes can be so soft and gentle and so fierce, and then I'm not sure what changes. I really can't tell what changes, like, because he's wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
It's so gifted, so amazing. What a magic trick Doug Jones pulls off. But then Janal too, like I said, with his viewing has to protect Tarina, but realizes he doesn't have to do that. So that was just a few pieces of evidence to support my claim.
That's beautifully said, and a great thing to highlight and call out. I am glad that you did. All right.
Helpful to think about the series in this way with this process. It was a lot of work.
It was a
Man.
lot of work in in the last week or less than, but it was
Yeah.
100% worth it because I have felt really happy about the way that Discovery ended, but also really sad because it is ending. And this has really helped me kind of work through some of that. So
Yeah. And connect it and
connect it.
figure out what it all means. Yeah.
All right, so I'm moving on because this next one was the easy one for me, and because this is going to be the world's longest podcast, and we both have to work tomorrow.
Oh, really?
So this is my production element, Grudge Grumble or Grudge Growl or however you want to call it, and I have to say, honorable mention to the costuming in Discovery, which is absolutely amazing. But this one I can do short and sweet because everybody's heard me talk about it all over the place. But it's the music of Discovery. I love every single season of this music. I have said to you over text, and to you in person, and to all these people, the cello work in Discovery speaks to my soul. Like, it just hits me in my emotions. Like, just thinking about the diversity of music, all the beautiful Klingon type songs we had from season 1, all of the intensity of control in season 2, all of season 3 with the stuff we talked about. Giorgio, that's my favorite season. That they actually play a cello. I mean, there's a cello.
Yeah.
Duet for piano and cello is a lullaby for my girls now. Like we've talked about in season 4, some of those pieces that they've played, that Coming Home and in the nursery and all those. I could go on. I know the names of these pieces because I listen to them so much. And when I watch the seasons now, having listened to the music as often as I have, all it does is enhance, and I feel more immersed. And I curate playlists based on mood or what I'm doing, and there's so much Discovery peppered all the way through because Discovery music makes you feel, and I like that. And so it had to be what I called out.
Well, it's my pick too for production.
Of course it is.
But specifically season 5 score.
Oh,
that's what I've chosen. Just season 5. We don't have access to the score yet, right?
Some of it is repeats of 4, so we have little bits.
Sure, but overall, there's a John Williams quality to season 5.
Yes.
Of adventure, of just a lot more vocal range that we haven't gotten in all of Discovery. And Discovery's music, I love it too. And I appreciate season 1 more, but it's not one I go to much. But 3, 4, 5, wow.
Yeah.
Top-notch Trek music.
It's like I said, it's constantly on repeat. It
Hmm.
is, if you have not downloaded the soundtracks to Discovery, start with 3, 4, and eventually 5, I hope. Um, and
Please.
yeah, yes. Well, we need Strange New Worlds season 2 and a bunch more
Yes.
lower decks as well. So
Yes, we
don't hold
do.
your breath on anything. But if you like Star Trek music, or if you're not sure if you like Star Trek music, start with one of those seasons. And it is absolutely worth your streams, your dollars, your
Yeah.
however you get your music. It is 100% worth it.
Mhm. Totally. Totally.
All right, so
All
we've
right.
got one more Grudge Grumble, the wild card.
Mhm.
You want me to start
Go
or do you?
wild.
All right, I'll start this one. And this one took a while because, again, there are so many things I could have listed. We could be here for another 6 episodes and suddenly become a Discovery podcast. But my wild card I finally settled on is the fact that Discovery rebooted Trek on TV. It went into
Mm.
true serialized storytelling. Yes, it was behind a paywall. Yes, it still is behind a paywall. But we have the Kurtzman era of Trek because of Discovery. I mean,
Yeah.
it led directly to Strange New Worlds. If you want to talk about just a direct sequel, that those characters were
Yep.
tested on Discovery. We're getting a
That's
section
how
third.
season 2 ends.
Exactly. Exactly. We have a Section 31 movie coming because of the work of Discovery. We have Academy coming, set in the
Hmm.
timeline of Discovery. Like all of, if Discovery had completely flopped, we would not have had Picard, we would not have had Prodigy, we would not have had Lower Decks. We owe so much to these people, and not just the people that we see on the screen and the characters and the
Hmm.
writers, but like the casting directors, the all of the people who behind the cameras, all of the people who make TV, because they made good TV that led to so many more years. And I mean, we're still in it, of
Hmm.
Trek. And thank
The
you,
new golden
Discovery.
age.
The new, well, yes, definitely. Alex Perry had some thoughts on calling it that with some of the ways that Trek has been treated, but I will definitely go with the Kurtzman era because I would like this golden age to
Okay.
go. You know, we'll put that a different way. But
Okay.
this new era, this modern era, this growing era is because of Discovery and the work it did. And it has gotten so much criticism and critique and hate
Mm.
along the way that, one, I don't feel is deserved. And two, when you look back, it led to so much more that
Mm.
feeds so many different flavors and parts of the fandom. If this wasn't what you wanted, needed, loved, fine. But give it the credit that it deserves for giving you something else that you do love. And so thank you. And my wild card is Discovery rebooting Trek on TV.
Wow, what a wild card. Epic. Epic.
I try. So
Yeah.
it was either going to be some tiny little piece of minutia or a big overarching thing. And I'm like, nope, this is for this series. It's a big overarching thing. So, all right, anything's on the table. What's your wild card?
I'm so glad I just went with my gut with this one because I almost didn't make this pick because I'm like, well, I'm podcasting with Abby. So should I do costumes? Because I'm doing costumes,
Yes, good job.
specifically Starfleet uniforms.
Oh. Somewhere Thad is rolling over and going, oh, I can't listen to this now.
He doesn't like Starfleet uniforms in Discovery?
He's frustrated at how many of them there are with
Oh,
inconsistencies because he is that guy, but he probably owns all of them. So
yes.
they have made him have a closet expansion.
Well, from the retro design of season 1, which
I loved.
doesn't really, I yes, I like,
Okay.
except they did get rid of the color scheme, right?
Yeah.
I don't like that. I like everything else about them. I like the blue because it's a great tie to Enterprise,
Yeah.
but the color, the classic color, I just one step too far.
Okay.
But then we get that back in season 2,
Mm-hmm.
kind of for a little bit, in a little way, and then season 4 and 5 definitely back to the classic bright colors of the Federation. But all the designs are really cool. I love I love in Janal when Janal says, "Oh, I love what they did with the uniform. A little formal," and it's true,
Yes.
totally is. But I love that uniform. I have it, and I need to iron it before I take a picture in it. But it's a good one. And I love the new uniforms that we see in the flash forward in the coda of Admiral Burnham. It's very reminiscent
Yeah,
of
I really like
Monster
those.
Maroon.
Yeah.
So
And that
cool.
com badge in the future with like just the
Oh,
circle around it. Ooh,
uh-huh.
I want that. I
Yeah. It
don't
looks
have a ton of them.
flimsy,
Like,
but
well, it depends what it's made out of.
yeah. But I like how it's like it's harkening back to classic TOS, but also with the oval
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
Discovery,
Mm-hmm.
saying it is all good. It's all part of the family.
Yeah.
But I also love her sons, the other
Oh, I know. I
captains.
like that one too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really cool uniform.
Yeah.
And the creator, the designer for Trans, is that the costume designer
Yeah.
of season
Yep.
5, I think,
Yep.
was saying that it's reminiscent of the TNG uniform. That's their favorite uniform.
Yeah. I
And I
agree.
loved that connection.
Yeah.
So I the final moments of Discovery, they whip out another two new uniforms.
Of course.
It-
Of course.
it's incredible. I love it.
Well, I'm so glad you picked this. And just the Vulcan costuming alone, or
Hmm.
Nivarian costumes,
Hmm.
just what, and you have heard me say over and over again, and if you go back and listen on any other podcast I guess I'm talking about Discovery, the hairstyles in this, the
Hmm.
makeup, the nail polish or not, the jewelry, the accessory, like I love the costumes in this. The
Hmm.
hats, there are hats in this, like when they're off on missions, like there's just okay, everything, everything about the costumes in Discovery is amazing. Talk about mirror universe costumes. Oh, that shot of
Hmm.
Giorgio
Oh
with
my
her
gosh, yeah.
headdress in front of the giant fireball on the Charon,
Hmm.
that is one of the best shots of all Trek. Like it's
Hmm.
just, and that's because of that costume. And yes, so I could go on for another 3 hours, and we are way past that mark in recording, so we are going to wrap this up. But we'll just say I could not love your pick more.
Yeah, I just like the evolution of the costume
Mm-hmm.
and how it gets back to the roots of the bright colors because I'm sorry, that's I think at the heart of the visual language of Star Trek from day one. So,
Yep, agreed. All right, so sticking with us for this last little bit. Thank you, Carrot Crew. We have come to the end of our Discovery discussion, and it is time for one last hard choice and one last bit of beautiful poetry. It's time for our overall series Grappler rating and a summary haiku for the entire series. So, after all this time and all this discussion and the stress and love and work that we put into all this, Chris, let's hear your final haiku and your Grappler rating for Star Trek Discovery.
whew, it was hard. It was hard. Okay, well, haiku. Series haiku for Star Trek Discovery. To discover the selves within the multitude is the gift of life.
Wow. That's like an actual meditation haiku. That's beautiful.
Right? I got chills reading it. Like, I texted you last night. I was like, my haiku is gonna stick with me for a while because I'm not sure where that came from,
Mm,
but it's something really I'm gonna be thinking about a lot. Yeah.
wow.
And you know what? For people that say Discovery doesn't have ideas, it's just action and graphics, CGI. No, it inspired a really
Good
important
thought.
idea
Yeah.
to me
Yeah.
that I'm going to be wrestling with for a while. So I appreciate it. Let's hear your haiku.
Okay. So my haiku: finding family, emotion is not weakness. Multiple arcs, let's fly.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I feel like I got in there what I loved the most. And I was
Mm-hmm.
gonna say Michael's arc, Let's Fly, but I
Mm-hmm.
realized it wasn't. That there were multiple
Mm-hmm.
things that were crossing and merging and coming apart again. And that is what what did it. But by the end, our characters did fly. They flew. It was beautiful. I love it.
And I love that, like, even Starfleet has an arc
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
this series.
Yeah.
So it's good you just didn't focus on Michael.
Yeah. I really went back and forth, but I couldn't in the end because there were too many other things that I loved. It is her story. It is her show. And that
It
is
is.
100% fine. But there were other things in there that spoke to me just as much.
Well,
So,
I mean, Enterprise is Archer's show,
right.
but it doesn't mean it doesn't explore how humanity develops,
Exactly.
right? In a
Exactly.
global sense. All right, we have to rate it now, right? We have to have how many spore drop. We
Yep. How many
have to
spore
have how
jumps?
many spore jumps we can give to Star Trek Discovery. This was hard. So I told you that I had to, before I could rate Discovery, I had to give a Grappler rating for every series that has been completed in Star Trek overall.
My God.
So I'm gonna go through that as the lead up.
You're as obsessive as I am. I did not
Yeah,
do
did
that
you
though.
do?
I did
Okay.
not, but I appreciate it because I had plenty of other calculus going on.
Well, I had an initial score and I was like, is that right?
Mm,
How does that sit up against everything else? Is this recency bias because I was still in the high of life itself?
yeah.
So, TOS 7.5.
Okay.
There's masterpieces in it, but it is a lot more inconsistent than I'd like. TNG 8.5. That was the hardest one to rank
Mm,
actually, because there's
interesting.
some real clunkers in TNG.
Yeah. True.
Deep Space Nine 9.5. I
Mm.
mean, Voyager 8.5. Surprised that I would rank it with TNG. These are my ranks today, by the way. I mean, Enterprise 7.5, and then Picard 8 out of
Interesting.
10. So that season 2 brings it down for me. Um, all right, so Discovery is an 8.5, ranking the same as TNG and Voyager for me.
Yeah.
That surprised me, but I'm okay with it. It feels right because it's an 8.5 for a different reason.
Yeah. Well,
What did you put? What did you put?
8.5
Yes.
because I realized and I love the fact that I I find so much more out of it every single time I've watched. And in the past 7 years, I've watched it, oh God, dozens of times probably, with
Yes,
the
you have.
exception of this, because I always watch it the entire thing before we start, and I watch new episodes 4 times at least, and then I do a series rewatch at the end, or at least a season. Anyways, it gets better every time. I find more.
Yeah.
I find comfort in the stories
Mm,
in it. It's sinking into part of my story, like some of
mm,
the other of my favorite treks. This is the first
yes.
one that I got to watch the entire thing for the first time for both me and
Yeah.
my husband. Like we watched for the first time together. And that
Oh,
has never happened before because it was the first new trek that was on TV. We that's something that became part of my story. And
mm,
I connect, like you were talking about the sound of thunder and the birth of one of your children. Like there are connections with
yes.
this series to touch points of my life, which is exactly why my other two favorite series of Enterprise and TNG, and I think DS9 is the best, but the ones that are my favorites are the ones that are at touch points in my life, my youth, my early adulthood, my parenthood, and marriage phase. Like Discovery grew with me. It has to
Yep.
be an 8.5. It's up there with the ones I love the best.
Mm. Yeah, I like that you said Deep Space Nine is probably the best Star Trek, but TNG and Voyager, and I think now Discovery, for the same reason you said, are going to be emotionally more resonant
Mm-hmm.
overall in my life because so many life changes happened while it was on birth of my children and
Yeah.
things like that. I mean,
Yep.
I was in the hospital room waiting for my son, watching The Sound of Thunder.
Yeah. I know.
I'll never disentangle those two parts of my life. So well said.
Yeah, and you too. And bravo, Discovery.
Before we can go, we have to nerd out a little bit about Discovery and how our picks fell out in the numbers. Like as I was making my picks, Abby, I was just like, how many times am I picking season 2 or season 3? And I really wanted to know. So I wanted to track that. And so let's look at how our love for Discovery shakes out in the numbers.
And listeners, just know that there is a like 3-colored gorgeous spreadsheet in front of us that he did while we were doing this. So I had to call out Chris's amazingness right there, because this is beautiful data for anyone out there who's data nerds.
I'm telling you, though, I'm grateful that I didn't have to do much for averaging things when we had the same score for a bunch of things.
Very true.
But yeah, so season 1, there were 9 picks, season 1. 8 of them were from you, 7 from me. And I know that doesn't add up to 9 because there's a lot of crossover between us.
Right.
And then 16 picks for season 2, 11 for you, 7 for me. Like I said before, only 2 episodes in season 2 weren't picked.
Yeah.
Brother and Perpetual Infinity. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
All right, season 3, 16 picks, 16 from you and 14 from me.
Dang.
Yeah. And then season 4, 14 picks overall, 11 for me, 11 for you.
Interesting.
Pretty even there. And then season 5, 14 picks, 12 for you, 13 for me. Look how stable our numbers are between season 2 onward.
Mm-hmm. Season 3, I got a lot of extra characters in there because I started the season and ended the season, so that's part of that. I mean, I'm not complaining. I know how, and I know Terra Firma I talked about a bazillion times. So
yeah. Our most chosen episodes are Lethe at 4. Terra Firma Part 1 and 2 at 4. But to Connect at 5.
Yeah.
So those are our most chosen episodes. That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Now. Yeah. All right. So then our season averages, our averages together for season 1 is 7.75.
Yep.
7.75 for season 2, and then season 3 7.5 because we got the same thing.
Yep.
Season 4 9.5. Season 5 9. And then you were curious about our average season scores would be the same as the overall rating. So both of us have an average score for the series at 8.3 based off of our season scores. So
damn, we're consistent.
Our average series score is 8.5. So that's pretty good. The numbers don't lie. Our feelings and our numbers align. And as teachers who are evaluating kids with our feelings and with the numbers, it's nice that when they say the same thing.
Yeah, agreed. That's cool. And you know what? I always feel like, and this has happened every time I've had to rate things, and then I average it out. I feel like the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And so I usually end up coming out just a little bit higher than what the numbers actually said, because I'm looking at it not just as pieces, but as the connective tissue. So I am proud of us.
The parts are as good as the whole.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go. I like that we're consistent. I feel good after this chat, and I hope that anyone who listened to all of this, 1, I hope you didn't do it all at once, because dang, and 2,
unless you had like a flight or something,
right? Exactly. And 2, I hope that this has made you feel good about Discovery, and if you needed to work through some of your sadness, I feel less sad. I feel like I really learned from thinking about this series. I learned from this discussion, and I'm glad we did this.
Me too. And Discovery's not without criticism.
No, not at all.
So is every series of Star Trek. And we love them all.
Find your flavors.
Do you have your communicator? The people the Suliban were working for came from about 300 years ago. They couldn't travel through time, but they did develop a way to send back images of themselves, to communicate through time.
You wanted a chance to communicate? I suggest you begin.
We want to remind you that we adore getting feedback and thoughts from listeners, as we hope you could tell from our last mailbag episode. We had so much fun sharing and discussing your insights and ideas. We have had lots of chats on social media with so many of you, and we're collecting again for the next mailbag episode. So this is your call for any Grappler ratings, Porthos picks, view screen on picks, or general comments. Just please get them to us, including your duras. Get them to us using the hashtag CarrotCrew so you can be part of our mailbag episode fun.
Yes, please do reach out to us and share any thoughts or smiles that you have using the hashtag Carrot Crew. And I was thinking that, we could do Carrot Crew Does Disco if you want to specifically reference this episode. And if you want to talk to us about Discovery, throw some stuff out there too. We are always happy to do that either on the channel and for the pod or personally. We love to talk Trek. So you can reach us at First Flight Pod on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Facebook. We are also on YouTube under the Tricorder Transmissions Network channel. If you want your voice on the pod or just to talk to us, you can email us audio files of 90 seconds or less at firstflightpod@gmail.com. Best place to reach me personally is Abby M. Summer. That's SOMMER.
M-M-E-R?
On Twitter. And I'm giving it my best shot on everything else. So, Chris, where's the best place to reach you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Shelf Nerds. You can also find me on my YouTube channel, Completing the Shelf.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, for sticking through this long episode. It is always a good time talking Trek with you and you, the listeners. It was very cathartic tonight. So thank you for spending this time with us. And we will be back on the Enterprise Season 3 track next time with Exile, the 6th episode of Season 3. And as always, we leave you with this quote from Captain Jonathan Archer and Your Moment of Melanie.
The most profound discoveries are not necessarily beyond that next star. They're within us, woven into the threads that bind us, all of us, to each other.
Daniel slash Kovich. Soundbite.
I had to add that in.
That's going in the button, us saying that at the same time, because we're not buttoning anything else. So there we go.
Yeah.